Chapter 1157. Because they were suppressed by Siyi's aura. No one present dared to utter a single word. After Emo's son killed the group of thugs in the house, he walked out. Similarly, he didn't utter a single word, but he gave everyone present a bone-chilling feeling. At this moment, Emo's son directly walked in front of Ciyi and expressionlessly said to Ciyi, "Young master, they've all been silenced." After saying this, Emo's son threw the bloodstained knife in his hand onto the ground with a paw sound. This action caused everyone present to tremble and jump in fright. It felt as if killing the group of thugs in the house, killing a group of living people, was a very ordinary thing. Ciyi indifferently replied. Then, he grabbed Yunjian's small hand and walked towards the Lamborghini sports car. "Take care of the scene." Ciyi left these 5 short words. He tugged Yunjian toward the Lamborghini. They were halfway there when Lin Xiaochu's fearless voice came from behind them. "What the hell? She clearly could have saved me. Why didn't she save me just now? It's her. It's all her fault that I was." Lin Xiaochu pointed at Yunjian's back and screamed. At this moment, her feelings were extremely complicated. Lin Xiaochu had a boyfriend before, so she wasn't a virgin anymore. However, she was gang raped in front of so many people. Furthermore, she was seen by her most beloved senior Rue. How was she going to face others? All of this was Yunjian's fault. She clearly had the ability, but she didn't save her. Lin Xiaochu didn't care that Ciyi had ordered Emo's son to kill the thugs in the house. It could be said that she didn't even notice that Emo's son had killed the thugs. Right now, Lin Xiaochu's mind was filled with thoughts of taking revenge on Yunjian. Lin Xiaochu was only halfway through her screams when Duan Tianyu rushed forward and covered her mouth. Just now, Ciyi wanted to kill them. If Yunjian had not stopped them from the start, they would have been killed by now. Although Duan Tianyu didn't want to touch Lin Xiaochu, who had been gang raped by the gangsters, he was more afraid of death. Therefore, he immediately rushed forward and covered Lin Xiaochu's mouth to prevent her from saying anything that would provoke Ciyi. Ciyi paused for a moment before he grabbed Yunjian's hand and returned to the car. They then drove back to the hotel. Seeing that Ciyi had come over in the middle of the night, Adam had a reason to take Lan Su to his room. Lan Su didn't refuse this time. Emo's son slept alone in a room. The next day, Yunjian and the others were ready to set off for the entrance of the tomb. The next day, when Satana woke up and was about to leave, he kept his promise. He made the dagger, which he had spent the whole night making, into a butterfly knife and handed it to Yunjian. In order to make the dagger into a butterfly knife, Satana didn't sleep for the whole night. It could be seen that he was really grateful to Yunjian. "Thank you." Seeing this, Yunjian also thanked him and took the butterfly knife. "I hope you can treat our family's heirloom well." This was Satana's only hope. He solemnly told Yunjian. "Okay." Yunjian nodded. After that, Yunjian and the others set off for the tomb. On the way, Yunjian disguised Ciyi, Adam, Lan Su, Emo's son, and herself. Not only did the raccoon know how to disguise himself, but she also knew how to do it. With her original appearance, the 5 of them were too outstanding. Therefore, she disguised the 5 of them, including herself, into very ordinary-looking young people. The tomb wasn't far from Hasa village. Just as they approached the only entrance of the tomb, which was a dry well, they saw that there were tents set up all around them. The car was still moving forward, but after a while, it was stopped by a middle-aged man. Chapter 1158. The entrance is blocked? Yunjian narrowed her eyes and asked. Yunjian and the rest had disguised themselves as ordinary people. Their appearances were very ordinary, except for their slim figures. Yunjian had disguised herself as a young girl with freckles. Her appearance was very ordinary, the kind that people would not be able to remember, even if they looked at her 100 times in a crowd. However, her sharpness did not diminish at all. Yes, the middle-aged man stopped Yunjian and the rest out of kindness and spoke to them politely. After a pause, the middle-aged man introduced himself and then explained in detail. "My name is Lu Guodong, and I'm an archaeologist. Half a year ago, I heard from the people who went into the tomb that there were no more treasures down there. So many people came out." "Oh right, I believe you've heard of the rumor that the tomb only allowed people to enter but not leave. Later, the rumor was dispelled by a young girl, and that young girl brought everyone out of the tomb. Only a small number of people were still unwilling to come out. But I heard that there were no treasures down there. About 2 months ago, someone found a jade pendant down there, and said that it was an ancient relic. So everyone came here to look for treasures again. It's a pity that they didn't find anything. Who would have thought that there would be a flood 3 days ago, and the huge rocks on the mountain collapsed and blocked the dry well at the entrance of the tomb. The people down there can't come up, and we can't go down either. But don't worry, the excavating engineers said that they can reopen the entrance in 10 days. Haha. The middle-aged man, who was the archaeologist named Lu Guodong, was obviously a warm-hearted person. So even if Yun Jian and the rest did not ask, he still told Yun Jian and the rest in detail. What Lu Guodong did not know was that it was Yun Jian who had cracked the rumor of only entering, but not exiting the tomb, that he was talking about, and brought the people out. When Yun Jian first came out of Yulong mainland, the people who were waiting for the stone door to open in the Xanadu, which was as big as a sports field in the tomb, saw that there were no treasures inside, and followed Yun Jian out. Everyone thought that they had waited in vain. Only a small number of people remained in the distance. In the end, 2 months ago, someone found a jade pendant. That jade pendant was an ancient relic, and was quite valuable. Therefore, people from all over the world who had lost interest in exploring the tomb, once again flocked to the tomb. However, an accident 3 days ago had blocked the entrance to the tomb, which was the dry well. That was why Lu Guodong and the others pitched their tents near the dry well, and waited for the engineers to open the entrance before swarming down. Yun Jian understood Lu Guodong's words. Since the entrance was blocked, they really couldn't go down. Under Lu Guodong's kind guidance, Yun Jian and the others also set up their tents. Lu Guodong was a very warm-hearted person. When it was time for dinner, Lu Guodong came over to invite Yun Jian and the others. Would you like to have lunch with us? We just set up a barbecue grill. Since fate has brought us together, let's have a meal together. Thank you. Lu Guodong was being kind, so Yun Jian thanked him. After that, Siyi hugged Yun Jian and led the group to where Lu Guodong's friends were. In Lu Guodong's group, there were a few young people. Of course, there were also some who were the same age as him. There was a very ugly woman in her 20s who was dressed to the nines. When she heard Lu Guodong's introduction to Yun Jian and the others, she smiled and went up to Yun Jian. Hello, I'm Fang Xiaoqin. Let's be friends. As Fang Xiaoqin spoke, she thought to herself, finally, there's a girl who's uglier than me. Chapter 1159. Hehe Xiaoqin, it's not easy. Finally, there's a girl who looks more attractive than you. Ha ha ha. Sitting not far away from Fang Xiaoqin, a rather pretty woman wearing a pair of short jeans and dressed very fashionably said to Fang Xiaoqin in a strange tone. The girl who looked more attractive than Fang Xiaoqin was none other than Yun Jian. The word attractive was also a very indirect mockery, that Yun Jian was uglier than Fang Xiaoqin. Yin Yin, how can you say that about other girls? This will hurt other girls' self-esteem. Fang Xiaoqin almost shouted in joy when she heard the fashionably dressed woman's words. However, Fang Xiaoqin still had a smile on her face. Right, I still don't know your name. Fang Xiaoqin asked cheerfully as she went up to Yun Jian. Yun Jian only lowered her eyes slightly and did not answer. She was too lazy to respond. Fang Xiaoqin saw Yun Jian's attitude towards her, and frowned very obviously. She was disgusted by Yun Jian's action of ignoring her for a while. However, when she thought that she had a lot of face standing in front of Yun Jian, and could prove that she was not the ugliest in the group, she did not fuss about it. Lan Su's appearance was also very average, but compared to Yun Jian, she was slightly better. Therefore, Fang Xiaoqin and Lin Meiyan only targeted Yun Jian. The group gathered together, and Lu Guodong brought a few stools for Yun Jian and the others. While they were talking, the good-looking woman called Yin Yin looked at a tall and handsome man in the distance. As if she was afraid that the people around her could not hear her, she called out to the man, Brother Yin Yin, you're so handsome. Wen Yin Gij, we're eating dinner. Do you want to come over and eat together? The woman who was called Yin Yan by Fang Xiaoqin was called Lin Meiyan. After Lin Meiyan called out to the man passing by, the man called Wen Yin walked over. Ah, it's so lively. Wen Yin walked over and stood there. Lin Meiyan was different from Fang Xiaoqin. Lin Meiyan herself was pretty, so when she said those words to Yun Jian just now, she wanted Yun Jian to pay attention to her. She wanted Yun Jian to pay attention to her and be mocked by her. However, Yun Jian did not pay attention to her, so Lin Meiyan felt that such an ugly girl actually dared to ignore her. She wanted to embarrass Yun Jian in her heart. When the man named Wen Yin came over, Lin Meiyan glanced at Yun Jian smugly. Yun Jian was baffled. What was there for Lin Meiyan to be cocky about when this man named Wen Yin walked over? Just as she thought, exclamations of exclamations came from all around them. Wow, it's Wen Yin. Lin Meiyan is really capable. She made Wen Yin walk over with just a shout. Isn't that so? Who is this guy? He's the one who saw the girl who dispelled the rumor that the tomb only allowed people to leave and not enter. Wow, is that true? Did he really see the legendary girl who let everyone out of the tomb? The group's bragging attracted Yun Jian's attention. Legendary girl? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, then realized that these people were talking about her. Back then, when Yun Jian led a group of people out of the tomb that only exited but did not enter, the rumors had spread to this extent. Even Wen Yin, who had seen Yun Jian back then, was bragging about it now just because of this. If Yun Jian had not disguised herself, he would have recognized her at a glance. Yun Jian had just narrowed her eyes when she heard Lin Meiyan say, "Isn't that so? Brother Wen Yin said that girl was very pretty." As she said that, Lin Meiyan even moved closer to Yun Jian and said in a mocking tone, "Little girl, I heard that the legendary girl is about the same age as you. Hee, but she is as beautiful as a fairy." Chapter 1160. Lin Meiyan felt that knowing Wen Yin was something to be proud of, because Wen Yin had seen the legendary girl. Oh, Yun Jian was a little impatient, so she casually replied to Lin Meiyan. He couldn't be bothered with Lin Meiyan, so he reached out and pulled Yun Jian into his embrace. Ci's appearance after his disguise was very ordinary. Although he was tall, he didn't attract any attention. Yun Jian had disguised the 5 of them, including herself, because she did not want them to stand out and attract unwanted attention. However, she didn't expect that they would still attract attention, even though they had disguised themselves to be ugly. Lin Meiyan had only hooked up with Wen Yin not long ago, because Wen Yin had seen the legendary girl. Everyone here worshipped Wen Yin like a god, trying to get information about the legendary girl's deeds from Wen Yin. Because of this, Lin Meiyan used the fact that she knew Wen Yin as her pride. So when she saw Wen Yin earlier, she called him over because she wanted to show off in front of Yun Jian that she knew someone like Wen Yin. However, Lin Meiyan never expected that Yun Jian's reaction would be so calm. This made Lin Meiyan even more unhappy. She cursed in her heart. "You're so ugly, but you don't even give me the reaction I expected." Lin Meiyan became even angrier as she thought about it. She always wanted to teach Yun Jian a lesson. As she thought about it, Lin Meiyan saw Ce pull Yun Jian into his embrace, so she became suspicious. "Are you two boyfriend and girlfriend?" Lin Meiyan asked with a fake smile. "She's mine." When Ce heard Lin Meiyan's words, he didn't even raise his head. He lowered his eyes and looked at Yun Jian, declaring his sovereignty in a very domineering manner. If it was in the past, when such a handsome man like Ce said such things to Yun Jian, the surrounding people would be extremely envious. But it was different this time. This time, Ce had an ordinary face. Just like Yun Jian's ugly face, she couldn't be remembered in a crowd. "You two are really a good match. An ugly man with an ugly woman. There was really no one more compatible than you two." Lin Meiyan held back her sarcasm and said sarcastically. Yun Jian and Ce ignored her. Seeing this, Lin Meiyan felt even angrier. However, at this moment, Lin Meiyan's eyes suddenly flickered. She realized that Ce and Yun Jian were probably ignoring her because she was much prettier than them. Thinking of this, Lin Meiyan almost couldn't help but sigh at her own beauty. At this time, the food on the barbecue rack in front of him was also cooked. Lu Guodong distributed food to everyone fairly. After lunch, Lu Guodong brought a group of men to the entrance of the tomb, which was the dry well, to help. It would take a long time for the engineering team to move the rocks that blocked the dry well. Lu Guodong's group didn't have anything else to do. They just wanted to enter the tomb as soon as possible, so they brought the men to help. Ce saw this and brought Emo's son and Adam over to check out the situation. Yin Jian and Lan Su didn't follow, while Yin Jian was sitting in the same place. Lin Meiyan was washing the pots and bowls that she had just used with a group of women. She saw that Yin Jian was leisurely and was angry. Ugly people can be idle, but I'm so beautiful, but I have to work. Is there any justice in this world? Lin Meiyan suddenly thought of an idea to mess with Yin Jian. She walked over to pour a cup of hot tea, just as she was about to deliberately trip and spill the tea all over Yin Jian's body. Suddenly, a woman in the distance shouted in horror, "Ah, that's a wolf. God, how can there be a wolf here?" Chapter 1161. Although there were many tents set up here, it was not to the point of overflowing. Even from where they were, they could see a ferocious male wolf roaring as it gradually walked towards them. Its movements were extremely slow and gentle. "Ah, it's a wolf." Lin Meiyan, who was still intoxicated by her beauty, shouted loudly. Then, her whole body trembled as she retreated step by step. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes. The group of women around her began to retreat in fear. Some of them hurriedly hid in their tents and stood up from the bench. "Wolf! Wolf!" In a moment, the women present all screamed, their faces pale with fright. Coincidentally, the men had followed Lu Guodong to the well to help. Everyone wanted to enter the tomb as soon as possible. They were afraid that the treasures in the tomb would be snatched away by others. At the place where the tents were set up, there were only women left. "Ah, how could this be?" The men all went to help. "Why is there a wolf here?" Some of the women screamed and ran to where the men were, which was the dry well. At this moment, even Wen Yen, who was worshipped like a god, had already gone to the well to help. It could be said that there was not a single man left here. The women subconsciously felt that they were weaker than the men. So in this situation, they were all panicking as if there was no doubt that it was inevitable. "Ah, it's going to coming over." Lin Meiyan was so scared that she grabbed Fang Xiaoqin's clothes tightly. Her face was pale with fright. Run quickly, let's run to the well, they are all there." Some of the women began to shout, thinking that as long as they ran to where the men were, they would be safe. It's too late. Just as the women were about to lose themselves in panic and wanted to run to the men to seek protection, Yun Jian's indifferent and fearless voice rang out. "What do you mean it's too late? Do you want us all to die here? How can you be so vicious? Everyone run quickly." Lin Meiyan thought. She suddenly pushed Fang Xiaoqin away and was about to lead the way to the dry well when Fang Xiaoqin stopped her. "Oh!" The male wolf howled. What followed was Yin Jian's curled smile, which was extremely strange. She slightly raised her lips and explained, "Wolves are pack animals. Do you think there will only be one wolf?" Just as he finished speaking, dozens of wolves jumped out from the bushes and stared at the group of women in front of them. At the same time, they blocked the path from here to the well. Why are there so many wolves?" I don't want to die, sob sob sob." A large group of women hugged each other tightly. They were so scared that they were wailing and trembling all over. Lin Meiyan was also scared out of her wits. The pack of wolves gradually approached. But at this moment, Yun Jian suddenly pulled out the sharp butterfly knife that she had just obtained from Satana from her trouser pocket. She curled her lips and sighed. Then she said to Lan Su, who was behind her without fear in the face of danger, "You came at the right time. I also want to test the power of this knife." "Hey, Lan Su, do it." "Yes." Lan Su obeyed. She flipped her hands and took out 2 darts from her trouser pockets. Lan Su was used to using darts. At this moment, Lan Su held the darts in her hands and used them as knives. You too want to?" Lin Meiyan saw this scene. She was so scared that she screamed loudly. Could it be that the two of them wanted to use the weapon in their hands that looked like they had no chance of winning and fight with these dozens of wolves? What kind of joke was this? But at this moment, Lin Meiyan saw Yun Jian's red lips curl up. On that ordinary and freckled face, there was a frightening smile. In the next second, Yun Jian shouted and stepped forward with Lan Su. Chapter 1162. The moment Lin Meiyan spoke, Yun Jian and Lan Su had already rushed into the pack of wolves with knives in their hands. In Country there were a lot of ungoverned bushes. Of course, it was precisely because there was no one to govern them that there were a lot of wild animals. Like this pack of wild wolves, they were real carnivores, and at the same time, they were also the rulers of the jungle. Dozens of wild wolves were eyeing the crowd covetously, and were already roaring with hunger. It was obvious that these dozens of wild wolves hadn't eaten for a long time. Hungry wild wolves could pounce on their prey without any regard for their lives when they saw them. Their fighting power was absolutely amazing, and Yun Jian and Lan Su were just two weak women. In Lin Meiyan's opinion, she felt that Yun Jian and Lan Su were so ugly, and they really thought that they had some heaven-defying ability. They're holding back the pack of wolves, let's run. Lin Meiyan's first thought was to run away, because to Lin Meiyan, if Yun Jian and Lan Su dared to rush up, it meant that they were most likely dead. Just right, this could also buy time for her to escape. However, just as Lin Meiyan was about to turn around and run, she heard a woman's exclamation from the side. Oh my God, she. From the corner of her eyes, she saw that none of the women around her turned around to run. Lin Meiyan suspiciously turned around, but she saw a scene that overturned her worldview. She saw that Yun Jian was leading the pack, and she rushed up to the three roaring wild wolves. The three leading wild wolves hadn't even reached Yun Jian yet. They saw Yun Jian's knife swinging from right to left at an extremely fast speed. The group of women present couldn't even see it clearly with their naked eyes. And the three wild wolves had already leaped towards Yun Jian, trying to pounce on Yun Jian and bite her ruthlessly. However, just as the three wolves were about to pounce on Yun Jian, their internal organs were slashed by Yun Jian's extremely sharp butterfly knife. The internal organs of the three wild wolves were cut open at the same time. Their skin and flesh were torn open. In the next second, the hearts of the three wild wolves hung out of their flesh and shattered at the same time. He died on the spot. There was not even the slightest bit of struggle. This was the power of the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand, which was forged by Satana and belonged to his family heirloom. Yun Jian curled her lips into a smile. With just a light stroke, the three wild wolves died in front of her. She curled her lips in satisfaction at the weapon she had just obtained. This smile carried a hint of wickedness. However, when the group of women in the distance saw this scene, their expressions were even more exaggerated than if they had seen a ghost. Lin Meiyan was so frightened that her entire body stiffened. She didn't dare to move anymore. The expression on her face was even uglier than if she had eaten dog shit. She actually killed three wild wolves. And her speed was so fast. Without much time to think, everyone saw Yun Jian kick the three leading wild wolves away. The knife rose and fell. Wherever Yun Jian passed, blood splattered. The seemingly ferocious wild wolves couldn't even get close to her before they were killed by her knife. At this moment, Yun Jian was like a death god from hell, mercilessly executing lives one by one. Lin Meiyan and Fang Shaoqin, who were standing in the distance, were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground. This was still a teenage girl. She could actually deal with a pack of wolves. And she was unharmed. Even if an adult man saw such a pack of wolves, he would be scared witless. Later, when the men at the other end of the dry well heard the words of a woman who had rushed over to call for help, saying that the women here were blocked by the pack of wolves, they rushed back with their fastest speed only to see this scene. Chapter 1163. Yun Jian was currently stepping on the carcass of a wolf that had just died. She bent down and gently retrieved the butterfly knife that was inserted into the wolf's innards, and even chopped the wolf's bones into pieces. Drawing a red arc, she was obviously satisfied with the blade's sharpness. As she pulled it out, she lifted her feet and stood on the ground. Lan Su had killed a few wolves as well, but he did not kill as many as Yun Jian. He was not as intimidating as Yun Jian just now. Lu Guodong, Wen Yin, and the others who had sprinted back from the old well sucked in a sharp breath. Yun Jian's last action just now had hinted that she was the one who had killed the wolves. Am I seeing things? This little girl, she actually killed these dozens of wolves? Oh my God. Is this a joke? There are so many wolves. Even if we made it back in time, we'd have to fight to subdue them. But she and another little girl, these two little girls, had actually killed dozens of wild wolves. This was a joke. The people around them began to chatter, their faces draining of color as they spoke. As for the women, they were too frightened to utter a word. The wolves just now had given them too much of a shock. Ce, who had returned from the old well with Adam, and Emo-san, was obviously not worried that something would happen here. Dozens of wolves were ferocious, but to his Xiao Jian, they were completely harmless. Yun Jian stood in the middle of a pack of wolf carcasses, surrounded by the fresh blood of the carcasses. Even an adult man with strong willpower would be so shocked by the gory scene that he felt nauseous. He might even be secretly afraid of seeing blood. Looking at Yun Jian, however, the girl did not even feel the slightest fear from seeing so much blood and carcasses. It was as if killing so many animals was nothing more than an insignificant thing. In spite of it, no one, be it a man or a woman, dared to approach them. While everyone was still in a daze, a tall silhouette flashed in front of them. In the next second, Ce stepped on the carcasses and came to Yun Jian. At the same time, he reached out to pull Yun Jian into his embrace and murmured softly, "I won't go far from now on. Whether it's killing humans or wolves, I'll do it for you." As he spoke, Ce carefully held Yun Jian's soft hand. His gentleness was a stark contrast to his aloofness when he treated others. Listening to Ce's alluring words, even the women standing far away were envious. If Ce did not look so average, he could probably drive all the women there crazy. At the moment, everyone's attention was on what Ce said. Whether it's killing humans or wolves, I'll do it for you? Killing humans? These two words made everyone who reacted to the situation stunned in horror. He could actually say the words killing humans so casually. Pff, don't flaunt your feelings if you're so ugly. How compatible. Both of them were so ugly, how compatible. After Lin Meiyin recovered from her fear, she saw that Yun Jian and Ce were the center of attention. She was very envious and mocked them. Just as she finished speaking, large droplets of rain suddenly fell from the sky. It's raining? Someone reached out to catch a large drop of rain and asked in surprise. At this moment, the rain gradually became heavier. At the same time, the rainwater washed the faces of Yun Jian and Ce. Chapter 1164. Just as Lu Guodong finished speaking, everyone's gazes turned towards Yun Jian and Ce's group of 5. They didn't even care that they were still drenched in the rain when it started raining. They saw that Yun Jian and Ce's faces were disfigured by the rain. After a while, everyone could feel that Yun Jian, Ce, Lan Su, Adam, and Emo-san's faces had a thick layer of skin peeled off. "Young madam, what's going on?" Adam reached out to wipe his face in front of everyone's astonishment, and a thick layer of skin peeled off. Adam naturally knew that he was in disguise. He only asked Yun Jian why this thing would fall off. "This thing isn't waterproof," Yun Jian explained. When it started raining, she already knew that this disguise was going to be broken. The makeup she put on their faces wasn't waterproof, so they were naturally exposed when it rained. Yun Jian's original intention wasn't to disguise herself. It was just to avoid attention. In the end, she didn't expect that even though her disguise was ugly, it still attracted attention. She felt helpless. "What do you mean by what isn't waterproof? What are you saying ugly?" Lin Meiyin was getting more and more annoyed with Yun Jian's words. She stood on the spot and didn't see Yun Jian clearly. However, when she heard Yun Jian's beautiful voice, she thought that the heavens had given Yun Jian a beautiful voice, but didn't give her a beautiful face. How great would it be if she had such a beautiful voice? That way, she would become a beautiful woman with a beautiful voice. However, just as Lin Meiyin finished speaking, she saw Yun Jian use the rain to wipe her face. Then, she revealed a face that was completely different from the one that was so ordinary that no one would be able to recognize her. This face was very delicate and pretty, exquisite to the extreme, small and beautiful. Moreover, this little face that had been washed by the heavy rain, although compared to those enchanting and charming beauties, this delicate and pretty little face did not have the slightest bit of charm. However, this delicate face was many times more beautiful and pleasing to the eye than those enchanting and charming faces. It could be said that at this very moment, Yunjian, whose disguise had been washed away by the heavy rain, was simply the highlight of the entire scene. In addition, Yunjian's figure was very slim. Previously, Lin Meiyan's heart was filled with jealousy. Yunjian was so ugly, but she had such a slim figure. In spite of it, Yunjian's ugliness comforted Lin Meiyan and Fang Xiaoqin. However, it was this sudden rain that made Yunjian's face change. The people standing around were all stunned. One by one, they stood in the rain in a daze. None of them thought of going into the tent to hide from the rain. Instead, they stared at Yunjian. Oh my God! Is she playing a face-changing magic trick? How did she become so beautiful? No, it's not just her. That man. And the other two men, that woman. Their faces have all changed. Oh my God! Those three men are so handsome. Those two women are also beautiful. What's going on? Sounds of discussion came from the surroundings. Lin Meiyan and Fang Xiaoqin's faces instantly turned pale. They originally thought that they had found a girl who was uglier than them. But in the end, Fang Xiaoqin was obviously a little disappointed. Lin Meiyan, on the other hand, did not dare to believe it. Lin Meiyan even directly shouted, "No, this is impossible. She must have worn a mask to become so beautiful." Just as Lin Meiyan shouted these words, Wen Yan's voice covered Lin Meiyan's and came out in horror. You are the legendary girl who brought everyone out of the tomb." Chapter 1165. If Lin Meiyan had suspected that Yunjian must have done something to make herself beautiful, then Wen Yan's words had completely destroyed Lin Meiyan's theory. Wen Yan was the most popular one, because he had seen the girl who had dispelled the rumor of only entering but not leaving in the tomb. And now, under the rain, Yunjian and the other four revealed their original stunning appearances. But after revealing their original appearances, Lin Meiyan had said that Yunjian had become so beautiful because she wore a mask. The surrounding people were almost misled by Lin Meiyan's words. After all, could there really be such a beautiful girl in this world? Yunjian's beauty gave people the illusion that she shouldn't exist in this world. But Wen Yan's words directly refuted Lin Meiyan's words. And what attracted everyone's attention was, Wen Yan actually said that Yunjian was that legendary girl? Heavens! How was this possible? Now that they knew that Yunjian was so beautiful, they once again found out that Yunjian was actually that legendary girl. Lin Meiyan's expression was worse than if she had eaten dog shit. Her face was tense and trembling, and the corners of her mouth were twitching. And what was even more shocking was that not only was Yunjian's appearance so outstanding, Ce, who was standing beside her, had removed his disguise and was now even more handsome than before. There was actually such a beautiful girl and such a handsome man in this world. At the beginning, Lin Meiyan had not only ruthlessly attacked Yunjian and Ce's appearance, she had even used the derogatory term compatible to describe them. Lin Meiyan had even bragged about that legendary girl in front of Yunjian, saying that the legendary girl was as beautiful as a fairy. What she meant was that she wanted to tell Yunjian that an ugly girl like her was an eyesore in this world. And now, when she found out that Yunjian was that legendary girl, Lin Meiyan felt as if she had been slapped to the ground by an invisible hand. The more arrogant Lin Meiyan was before, the more embarrassed her expression was now. As for Fang Xiaoqin, who had wanted to get close to Yunjian and make herself look prettier, she didn't look any better. What was different from everyone else's dumbfounded expression was that Ce, the center of attention, was getting close to Yunjian. At this moment, it was raining heavily. After the rain had blurred the makeup on their faces, Ce reached out and pulled Yunjian into his embrace. He held Yunjian completely in his arms and used his firm chest to shield her from the strong wind and heavy rain. "Don't get caught in the rain. Let's go into the tent," Ce said gently. Then, under the envy of the crowd, he held Yunjian's hand and walked towards the tent. Anyone who wasn't blind could tell how much Ce doted on her. He simply doted on her to the bone. Previously, Lin Meiyin felt that Ce's looks were very ordinary and didn't fit her taste. Therefore, she didn't feel envious of how much Ce doted on Yunjian. Instead, she used a mocking tone to criticize him. Now that they had seen Ce's face, even Lin Meiyin was envious of him, let alone the others. Are the two of you really a couple? Lin Meiyin wished she could become Yunjian and lie in Ce's arms. She gritted her teeth and blocked Ce from bringing Yunjian back to the tent. Adam, throw her out. Ce suddenly raised his sharp eyes and looked at Lin Meiyin with murderous intent. Adam walked over and wanted to throw Lin Meiyin out without another word. Do you still have any sense of reason? This is our territory. Lin Meiyin said this sentence with righteous indignation. Bang! As soon as Lin Meiyin finished speaking, Adam took out a desert eagle from his waist and fired a shot at Lin Meiyin's feet. Chapter 1166. After saying that, Adam didn't shoot Lin Meiyin's head. Instead, he held the gun and fired several shots at Lin Meiyin's feet. Bang! 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 Lin Meiyin was so scared that she turned around and ran. She didn't dare to have any other improper thoughts. Next time you see her, just kill her, Ce said to Adam. Then, she held Yunjian's hand and walked into the tent. Hearing Ce's words, which treated human lives like grass, the people standing around all trembled. They were obviously shocked by Ce's words. Even after Ce and Yunjian entered the tent, the people around them were still unable to react for a long time. Good shot. That woman deserved a lesson. At this moment, Lan Su walked to Adam's side. She had always maintained her cold appearance, but at this moment, she revealed a shy smile. Lan Su's smile almost melted Adam's heart. Adam was just about to put the desert eagle back into his waist case when he heard Lan Su's words. He grabbed the gun again and wanted to look for Lin Meiyin again. I'll just kill her in seconds. He had just threatened that woman, and Lan Su had taken the initiative to stand beside him and praise him. If he killed that woman, wouldn't Lan Su obediently throw herself into his arms? Just as Adam raised his gun, Emo's son held him down. Emo's son coughed a few times, paused, and then said, Adam, young master and young madam haven't said anything yet. Don't be impulsive. Emo's son was Adam's biological brother, but he never called him brother. Normally, he even used strict requirements to reprimand Adam. But in fact, everything Emo's son did was for Adam's good. Uffed. Lan Su saw the interaction between Emo's son and Adam, and she couldn't help but laugh. A second later, Lan Su immediately restrained her smile. She pretended to be cold and walked towards a small stream. I'm going out for a walk. After saying something to Emo's son and Adam, Lan Su braved the rain and walked forward. Where are you going? Rushing out without an umbrella. Adam frowned. Then, he went back to the car and took out a black umbrella. He followed Lan Su's footsteps. Emo's son stood where he was and shook his head, laughing involuntarily. He knew that Adam's interest in Lan Su wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing, so he already treated Lan Su as his sister-in-law. 10 days wasn't a long time. Besides, Yunjian had Ce. Every day, during breakfast and lunch, Ce would hold her little hand and walk around. Although he would sometimes do some shameful things to her when there was no one around, Yunjian was secretly looking forward to it. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The construction team was very diligent. Even though it was supposed to take 10 days, they really managed to remove the last piece of rock that covered the dry well on the afternoon of the 10th day. This also meant that they could enter the tomb. From the beginning to the end, Lu Guodong didn't look down on Yunjian and the others. When the dry well was opened, Lu Guodong ran over to tell Yunjian and the others. Everything was ready. Lu Guodong and the others planned to enter the tomb with Yunjian and the others. Yunjian didn't refuse. Just when Yunjian and the others were ready, Lu Guodong and the others were also ready. A woman's voice sounded. Hey, it's you guys? Yunjian turned around and saw that the people who appeared in front of her were Ning Xia, Hu Chirue, and the others who she met in Hasa village some time ago. Originally, Yin Jian had a good impression of Ning Xia and Hu Qiruwei, but the premise was that they didn't go with Lin Xiaochu and Duan Tianyu. Yeah. When she heard Ning Xia ask her, Yin Jian still responded. Hu Qiruwei was very smart. He looked at Lu Guodong and asked, "Hello, we also want to enter the tomb. Can we go together?" Hu Qiruwei knew that Lin Xiaochu and Duan Tianyu had a dispute with Yin Jian, so he could only ask Lu Guodong and the others. Only then could they peacefully enter the tomb together. "Sure, let's go together. There's strength in numbers." Lu Guodong smiled politely. Yin Jian naturally didn't care. After all, the final destination of the five of them was different from this group of people. Chapter 1167. Just as they arrived at the mouth of the well, Lin Xiaochu and Lin Meiyan were both shocked by the depth of the well that stretched from the mouth of the well to the bottom. Why is it so deep? Will I get hurt if I go down? What are we going to do if you fall and hurt yourself? Lin Xiaochu took 2 steps back in fear. She wanted to go to Hu Qiruwei's side, but he dodged her. Lin Xiaochu gritted her teeth and turned to throw herself into Duan Tianyu's arms. If it was in the past, Duan Tianyu would definitely hug Lin Xiaochu immediately. But this time, Lin Xiaochu wanted to lean on Duan Tianyu in fear, but Duan Tianyu dodged her. Duan Tianyu only needed to look at Lin Xiaochu to remember the scene 10 days ago, when the group of gangsters were all over her body. To Duan Tianyu, Lin Xiaochu was already dirty. No matter how much he liked her in the past, he had to keep his distance in the future. Lin Xiaochu, who clearly felt Duan Tianyu's actions, was filled with anger. So what if Yin Jian was powerful and killed a lot of people? She could have saved her at that time. Even if Lin Xiaochu was with the group of gangsters that day, she had enjoyed it, but she had also embarrassed herself. Even Duan Tianyu, who used to crazily chase after her, had distanced himself from her. At this moment, Lin Xiaochu didn't care how powerful Yin Jian was. She only wanted to teach Yin Jian a lesson. It would be best if she let Yin Jian experience the feeling of being gang raped. "I'll go first." Yin Jian saw this group of people dilly-dallying, but she couldn't be bothered to wait. She jumped into the well with Ce and the others without any hesitation. Yin Jian was the legendary young girl. She had already entered the tomb, so she must be very familiar with the terrain below. Lu Guodong saw this and immediately shouted, "If you want to follow, then follow. If you don't want to, you can go back now." As he spoke, he also jumped down. Perhaps because Lu Guodong was older, he was more persuasive. So when Lu Guodong spoke, the voices of people like Lin Xiaochu, who were complaining, instantly disappeared. Yin Jian had been here before, so she was naturally familiar with the terrain here. As for Wen Yan, although he had seen Yin Jian before, it was when Yin Jian brought everyone back from the tomb. He had never been to the tomb. At this time, Yin Jian had already easily led everyone to the mud hole that was as big as a basketball court. There were still a few people stationed here. It seemed like some of them were still waiting for the stone door to open. Lu Guodong and the others were surprised to see such a large mud cave. After all, none of them had entered the tomb, nor had they seen this paradise. At the front of the mud cave, the stone door and the cave beside it were still there. Legend had it that after waiting here for a year, the stone door would open, and behind the stone door would be another world. Unfortunately, some people had already waited for a year, but the stone door showed no signs of opening. At this moment, the only place they could pass through quickly without having to wait was this cave. However, the cave was riddled with traps. Even a fly would not be able to enter. When Yin Jian brought people out of the tomb, the legend of the cave and the stone door was no longer a secret. Yin Jian had just arrived when she turned to Lu Guodong and said, "Let's part ways here." When Lu Guodong heard this, he was confused. "Where are you going?" Back then, the legendary girl who had led the people out of the tomb had also passed through the stone cave with monstrous mechanisms. This matter had not been spread out. Lu Guodong and the others did not know. Yin Jian pursed her lips and smiled. She walked towards the cave with Ce and the others. When Lu Guodong saw this, he was shocked. "I heard that all the assassins on the international assassin chart died in that cave. Could it be that you want to?" Just as Lu Guodong's words were shocking, Wen Yan, who was in the know, said something that terrified everyone present. Chapter 1168. As soon as Wen Yin finished speaking, it was as if he wanted to introduce Yin Jian's abilities to everyone. So he spoke louder and with an exaggerated tone. I heard that as long as a person walks into this cave, their heart will be pierced by thousands of arrows. If they can't avoid it, then these arrows will pierce through them on the spot, and their bodies won't even be found. Back then, countless international assassins and secret agents, as well as Long Xiao from all over the world, came here one after another, trying to pass through this cave, but none of them succeeded. And that girl, and the other 3 men, are the only people in the world who can pass through this cave. Towards the end, Wen Yan's expression was very intense, as if the legendary person who could pass through this cave was himself. Brother Wen Yan, is this cave really that powerful? A group of people were following closely behind Yun Jian's group of 5 towards the cave. Hearing Wen Yan's words, Lin Meiyan couldn't help but ask. From Lin Meiyan's tone, it was clear that she didn't really believe Wen Yan's words. Just based on this cave, could it really be that powerful? So many international bigwigs couldn't pass through it? Only Yun Jian's group could pass through? Although Yun Jian's skills were really shocking, Lin Meiyan didn't really believe that Yun Jian and those 3 men could pass through the cave, that even other international bigwigs couldn't pass through. Brother Wen Yan, what you're saying is probably just hearsay, right? Lin Meiyan asked again. It's hearsay, but I'm sure that it's all true. Wen Yan saw that Yun Jian's group of 5 were almost at the entrance of the cave, so he said even more firmly. It's them. I heard that there were 4 people who entered the cave, but I didn't know who they were. Lu Guodong also came out to testify at this time. Just as they finished speaking, Lin Meiyan's eyes suddenly lit up. Then she led the group towards Yun Jian's group of 5 even faster. At the same time, Lin Meiyan shouted Yun Jian's name loudly. Hey Yun Jian! When they were almost at the entrance of the cave, Yun Jian turned sideways and stopped, then slightly turned to look at the group behind her. Lin Meiyan had already called out to her. Lu Guodong was standing not far away. He smiled at Yun Jian's group and said, Although I don't know why you have to pass through the cave again, I hope you have a safe journey. Lu Guodong's words were very sincere. Yun Jian also narrowed her eyes. During this period of time, Lu Guodong had been taking care of them as an elder. We will. Before Yun Jian could speak, he reached out and hugged Yun Jian to his arm. Hey, are you guys planning to pass through by yourselves? We're to go through as to everyone's to pass through to us. At the very least, we came here together. Lin Meiyan spoke once more, forgetting the lesson she had learned not too long ago. When, as to say, this, to be, to say, to Lin, to turn to walk be. What a joke! If you don't know how to bring anyone, then what about that woman? Since Brother Wen Yan said that only the 4 of you passed through this cave, if you don't bring her, how can that woman pass through? Lin Meiyan seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. She pointed at Lan Su and spoke very confidently. However, before Lin Meiyan finished speaking, there was a stranger who had been waiting here for the stone door to open for a long time. After looking around Lan Su for a long time, he finally looked at Lan Su and said, Aren't you the woman who came out of this cave a few months ago? We didn't see you enter the cave, and you were wearing ancient clothing, could it be? Chapter 1169. This person had been standing here looking at Lan Su for a long time. He felt that Lan Su's face was somewhat familiar. Later on, he heard from Lin Meiyan that Lan Su definitely couldn't pass through the stone cave. She was with Yun Jian, so Yun Jian naturally wouldn't leave her behind. Just when Lin Meiyan said that Lan Su, how could that woman pass through? This person suddenly thought of something. A few months ago, there was a 16-year-old girl, wearing a black plain dress, who passed through the stone cave just like that. At that time, it caused a panic among the people who were still waiting for the stone door to open. What did you say? This woman, she came out from the stone cave? Lin Meiyan and the others were all stunned. They were all dumbfounded on the spot, and looked at Lan Su in disbelief. That person saw that Lin Meiyan and the others didn't believe him, So he opened his mouth and said, "This is absolutely true. I've been here for at least a year. Other than seeing these 4 people come out of the stone cave one after another, I haven't seen anyone else enter the stone cave. When she came out of the stone cave wearing a black dress, it scared the hell out of us." Oh, that's right, I remember now. It wasn't just her. There was also a man wearing a black robe who came out of the stone cave. And the most bizarre thing is that she and that man wearing a black robe have never entered the stone cave. We've been here for so long, and we've never seen anyone who entered the stone cave and didn't come out. It's as if they came from another world and came out of the stone cave. The man who stood up and spoke wore a pair of glasses. He looked refined and wasn't young either. He was probably in his 40s. Thus, no one questioned what he said. But at this moment, other than shock, no one present could find any other expression. Originally, Yun Jian didn't have a good opinion of the man wearing glasses' words. After all, if Lan Su's identity was exposed, it wouldn't be good for them. It was only when the bespectacled man finished speaking that Yun Jian snapped back to reality. A man wearing a black robe? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and asked. Seeing such a beautiful girl like Yun Jian asking him, the man was silent for 2 seconds before nodding and saying, "Yes, I remember that man wearing a black robe. Only his eyes were exposed. He was very strange and mysterious." As the man wearing glasses spoke, he couldn't help but shake his head. Clearly he was lamenting. But obviously, this man's words successfully attracted Yun Jian's attention. He was dressed in a black robe, and he was a man from the Yulong mainland. Why was this person so similar to the mysterious person mentioned by the leader? Back then, after eliminating the Inferno Ring, he found out that the real murderer of his brother's predecessor was a mysterious person. Yun Jian had also tried to find that person. Even later, Yun Jian was assassinated. It was as if someone was manipulating everything behind the scenes. And connecting all the dots, the mysterious person's motive was the biggest. Not long ago, Yun Jian had learned from Hu Batian, whom she had killed, that the mysterious person, who controlled the former Inferno Ring, and had been pulling strings behind the scenes, was from Yulong mainland. Today, she heard from the man wearing glasses that other than Lan Su, there was another man wearing a black robe, who came out of the stone cave, which was Yulong mainland. Then, she was 90% sure that the mysterious person was the person the man wearing glasses was talking about. Chapter 1170. As soon as Yun Jian spoke, the bespectacled man fell into deep thought. Because the mysterious person had appeared much earlier than Lan Su coming out of the cave, the bespectacled man had to carefully recall the characteristics of the mysterious person. Hee, do you think you're filming a mythical TV series? You're so mysterious, as if it's real. Those who don't know would think that you're acting. Seeing that Yun Jian had successfully attracted the attention of a circle of people, Lin Xiaochu remembered that she had been humiliated because Yun Jian didn't save her in time. Therefore, Lin Xiaochu angrily opened her mouth, trying to embarrass Yun Jian at this moment. When Lin Meiyan heard Lin Xiaochu's words, it was as if she had suddenly found a helper. So this girl also hated Yun Jian so much. After Lin Xiaochu finished speaking, Lin Meiyan agreed. That's right. She's so mysterious. What other world? What? This is a lawful society. An era where science is advocated. We're not filming a TV series. Can you be more normal? Don't act like you know everything. Lin Meiyan and Lin Xiaochu, both of whom had the surname Lin, were like a family. Very quickly, they began to attack Yun Jian together. Yun Jian only slightly narrowed her eyes, but her eyes were fixed on the bespectacled man. She seemed to be waiting for the bespectacled man's reply. Oh, I remember now. That mysterious person didn't have a right pinky. At that time, he wrapped himself up tightly, but when he raised his hand, I saw that he didn't have a pinky on his right hand. The bespectacled man suddenly thought of this and quickly said to Yun Jian. After hearing this, Yun Jian and Ce looked at each other. Then she curved her lips and said to the bespectacled man, "Thank you." After saying this, Yun Jian and the other 4 turned around and walked towards the cave. They completely ignored Lin Xiaochu and Lin Meiyan. "Hey, you're leaving just like that? You guys. Lin Meiyan saw that Yun Jian, and the rest did not even look at her. Just as she was about to say something, Yun Jian and the rest had already arrived at the entrance of the cave. Then, with Yun Jian taking the lead, the 5 of them quickly flashed into the cave, dodging the flying arrows almost instantly and disappearing from everyone's sight. The 5 people's nimble movements made everyone's eyes widen. They really went in. When Lin Meiyan saw Yun Jian and the other 4 enter the cave, the flying arrows began to move recklessly. She almost cried out in shock, just from the frequency of the flying arrows. Even the people standing in the same place could feel that it was impossible to pass through this cave. Right? Lin Meiyan felt a deep fear. If it was him, even if he was being carried by Yun Jian, he would have been so scared that he wouldn't dare to move when he saw those mechanisms. Would he be pierced by thousands of arrows? Just thinking of this scene, Lin Meiyan shuddered violently. When the others saw this scene, their expressions also changed slightly. Even the bespectacled man took a deep breath, then opened his mouth in front of everyone's eyes and said, "I've been here for a long time, and all the people who tried to enter the cave before were all pierced by thousands of arrows. Those people were all pierced by at least 100 flying arrows, and even their corpses exploded in an instant. Those 5 young people are indeed capable. That skill, it's simply not something that a human should have." The bespectacled man's exclamation made Lin Meiyan and Lin Xiaochu's hair stand on end and tremble. Chapter 1171. At this moment, Siyi was already holding Yun Jian's little hand as they passed through a long stretch of pitch-black stone tunnel. Then a bright light flashed before their eyes. When they came back to their senses, they had already arrived at the Yulong continent. As they had been here before, this stretch of road was familiar to everyone. After exiting the stone tunnel and arriving at a brand new world, Lan Su said to everyone, "We're here. I can cast a spell to bring you back to the witch tribe directly. It'll be a little far from here." At this point Lan Su paused, then turned to look at Ce, Adam, and Emo-san. "Before that, could I trouble your excellency to disguise yourself again?" At this point, Lan Su did not forget to explain. "Your excellency, you come from the deity continent that controls the life and death of all continents. In our hearts you're a god. So if you appear, it might cause a commotion in the entire Yulong continent. So, I'll have to trouble you to disguise yourself as an ordinary person and return with us. What about the 2 of us?" Adam walked over and put his arm around Lan Su's waist, then pointed at himself and Emo Sr. "You're both your excellency's people, and also from the deity continent. I don't know why you're on Earth, so of course you have to disguise yourself." Lan Su struggled a little as Adam held her waist. In the Yulong continent, if an unmarried woman or an unmarried man were to be so close to a woman, they would be reviled by the world. In the Yulong continent, the monogamy system was far stricter than in countries E. Here, if someone were to have an affair in marriage, then both the person and the mistress would be hanged to death. "This is the Yulong continent. You should show some respect," Lan Su said. If an unmarried man and woman were to be seen hugging each other, even a passerby would have the right to interfere. "How can I respect you? Is there anything on your body that I haven't touched?" Adam said as he moved closer to Lan Su. Before he finished his words, Emo's son had already grabbed Adam and pulled him aside. "Brat, behave yourself." As Adam's brother, Mawson still had this imposing manner. At this moment Lan Su explained, "In Yulong mainland, only married couples can hug each other in public. Here, as long as the marriage contract is signed, 2 rings will automatically appear. As long as they have this pair of rings, it means that the man and woman are husband and wife. Even if they do something in public, they are allowed." Lan Su's words made Emo's son raise his eyebrows. Yun Jian had also never heard of this before. She turned her gaze to Lan Su. As soon as Lan Su finished speaking, Ce, who had been silent all this time, suddenly asked, "How do we sign the marriage contract?" Lan Su was surprised to hear Ce ask, but when she recovered, she explained patiently, "I'm not sure if you'll be able to do it. As long as you have a little spiritual power, you can summon the marriage contract array. Once the marriage contract is formed, it means that the two people are husband and wife, just like the people on Earth getting a marriage certificate, but this is more direct. Spiritual power was what people in Yulong mainland called their cultivation level. Lansu added, usually, the marriage contract can only be signed with the consent of both the man and woman. However, if the man's spiritual power is stronger than the woman's, or if the woman's spiritual power is stronger than the man's, the marriage contract can be forcefully signed. Since she had said this, Lansu had to add, that's right. If the marriage contract is signed here, then even if you leave Yulong mainland and go to Earth, the contract will still be valid. Lansu's last sentence successfully attracted Siyi's attention. Yin Jian leaned in front of Siyi. She was pressed against Siyi's warm chest. No one saw the slight smile on Siyi's thin lips when he heard Lansu's last sentence. At the same time, he stretched out his large bony palm. In the dark, after he stretched out his hand, a spiritual power so strong that it could raise the entire Yulong mainland to the ground condensed in his large palm. However, it was only a flash. Chapter 1172. Yun Jian leaned against Siyi's chest, so she didn't see the slight smile on Siyi's lips. We can set off now, Yun Jian said at this moment. Yun Jian didn't think that what Lansu said was important, so she interrupted them. All right. Lansu obediently shut up and didn't say anything else. Just like that, the group was brought back to the sorcerer tribe by Lansu. It would take some time to return to the sorcerer tribe from the exit of Yulong continent from Earth. With Lansu and the others, it would take even longer. It took them 2 full days. In these 2 days, Yun Jian put on human skin masks for Ce, Adam, and Mo-sun, just in case something happened the last time. These 3 human skin masks were much more complicated than the disguise technique from before. More materials were used to make them, and the cost was also high. They were only one-time use. Yun Jian only gave them to prevent them from falling off when it rained like the last time. On the way back, Lansu even returned the sandalwood box to Yun Jian. Sorcerer goddess, this is yours. We're going back to the sorcerer tribe now. It doesn't matter if you're willing to help the sorcerer tribe return to its former glory or not. It belongs to you. This time, Lansu didn't call out Yun Jian's name directly. Instead, he looked at her with a very calm expression and said these words that could be considered a sincere request. Yun Jian frowned slightly. She wanted to refuse, but when she saw Lansu's sincere face, she raised her eyebrows and changed her words. All right. She then took the sandalwood box from Lansu's hands. On the way back, Lansu also changed into a black ancient plain robe. Only Ce, Lansu, and Yun Jian didn't change their clothes. They were all wearing modern clothes. We're here. This is the sorcerer tribe. After 2 days of travel, Lansu finally brought everyone to the sorcerer tribe. At this time, Yun Jian was standing in front of a large ancient building. This large ancient building was different from the houses of any dynasty left behind on Earth. Its size and grandeur were so great that even the shamans, who had fallen, would still be shocked by this magnificent ancient building. The entire hall of the sorcerer tribe was covered by a layer of darkness. If there were any experts or scholars here, their eyes would probably pop out of their sockets. This was because the main hall of the sorcerer tribe had been built for thousands of years without any cracks. More importantly, the main hall of the sorcerer tribe was not built with any soil or cement that existed on Earth. Judging from its composition, it was easy to tell that it did not belong to Earth. The first thing Yun Jian saw when she raised her head was a huge crystal ball lying on the ground in front of the large building, which was also the front of the sorcerer tribe's main hall. No one was taking care of it. It wasn't that no one was taking care of it, but that no one dared to take care of it. That was something left behind by the sorcerer god. Let's go in. Lansu took a deep look at the shattered pieces of the huge crystal ball, then led the way in. Yun Jian replied softly. Thus the group continued to move forward. However, before they could reach the center of the sorcerer tribe's main hall, a group of people around the same age as Lansu stopped Lansu. They were dressed in black ancient clothing. The leader of the group was a clean-looking young girl. At this moment, she was boldly blocking Lan Su's way. This young girl was different from Lan Su. She was born not long ago, but Lan Su had lived for thousands of years. She, as well as the group of young boys and girls behind her, had never seen the sorcerer god's true appearance. Thus, when the young girl saw Yun Jian, she was only stunned by her beautiful appearance. However, the young girl looked at Ce and the other two indifferently. Finally, she looked at Lan Su and mocked. Chapter 1173. This young girl stood arrogantly in front of Lan Su. She tilted her head, and her 16 or 17-year-old face was filled with arrogance. "Shut up. Wu Qing. How dare a junior like you be so arrogant? I'll send you to hell right now." Hearing the girl named Wu Qing's words, Lan Su almost couldn't hold back. She flipped her hands and 2 darts condensed from spirit energy appeared in her hands. "You. Haha, Lan Su. Don't forget that my aunt is in charge of the sorcerer tribe. If you dare to be rude to me, I'll ask my aunt to chase you out immediately." This girl called Wu Qing had a high status in the sorcerer tribe, because her aunt was the current leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan. In the sorcerer tribe, the leader was always the most powerful. In the sorcerer tribe, everything had to be done by the leader. However, this was only when the sorcerer god wasn't around. In the sorcerer tribe, there was only one sorcerer god. The only person who could decide the fate of the sorcerer tribe was the sorcerer god. In the sorcerer tribe, the leader was always the most powerful. However, in front of the sorcerer god, even if the sorcerer god killed the leader in front of everyone, she still had the right to do so. This was the sorcerer god's right. The sorcerer god could change the leader of the sorcerer tribe at any time. The reason why the sorcerer god was called a god was because in the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer god was like a god. If she said 1, no one in the sorcerer tribe would dare to say 2. Of course, that was a long time ago. Many of the juniors in the sorcerer tribe had never seen the sorcerer god, just like Wu Qing. Wu Qing and the other juniors had never seen the sorcerer god, so they thought that the sorcerer god was just a legend. In comparison, Wu Qing and the others even thought that the leader had the final say in the sorcerer tribe. What sorcerer god? That was nonsense. Haha, Lan Su. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you're the first protector of the sorcerer god, who has never shown his face. Let me tell you, this is no longer the era of the sorcerer god. In the sorcerer tribe, my aunt has the final say. She loves me the most. Even if I want you to die now, you're going to die too. Wu Qing's words were full of righteousness. At the same time, she pointed at Lan Su and spoke arrogantly. Just as she said this, a few young men and women around Wu Qing's age fought to be the first to speak. Exactly. The legendary sorcerer goddess has never shown her face. Who knows if she really exists or not? It must be fake. Hehe. Wu Qing raised her head and looked at Lan Su even more arrogantly when she heard the voices around her helping her. Lan Su, I don't know why my aunt respects you so much, but don't get carried away. CK. Don't think that I won't hit you just because you're a child. If you dare to say anything bad about her again, I'll kill you right now. Adam couldn't bear to listen any longer. Adam didn't say anything when he was stopped by Lan Su. Now that he heard Wu Qing's insults, he almost rushed up to her and beat her up. For some reason, Wu Qing was startled by Adam. However, she quickly regained her composure. Wu Qing glanced at Adam. Just as she was about to curse back, a slightly mature but crisp female voice sounded. Qinger. Wu Qing immediately turned around when she heard the voice. Aunt. Wu Qing was very happy when she saw the woman who suddenly appeared. Now that her aunt was here, she could vent her anger. Auntie, I don't know where Lan Su brought a few people back from. Hurry up and chase these people away. Wu Qing skipped over to Wu Lan. She had just grabbed Wu Lan's hand and was waiting for Wu Lan to help her vent her anger when she heard Wu Lan's words. Wu Lan and the group of elders she brought all looked at the strangely dressed girl beside Lan Su. Chapter 1174. When Wu Lan and the rest saw Yun Jian, Wu Lan and the elders behind her immediately knelt down in front of Yun Jian. The reason was simple. The sorcerer god was too powerful back then. The sorcerer god's power back then was enough to make Wu Lan and the elders behind her tremble in fear. Even though it was no longer the era when the sorcerer god was at his peak, Wu Lan was still shocked when she saw Yun Jian, who looked exactly like the sorcerer god. Wu Qing was dumbfounded when she saw her aunt kneel down in front of the girl that Lan Su had brought back. In the sorcerer tribe, every person who was born was taught a philosophy. As long as the sorcerer god was around, the sorcerer tribe would definitely prosper. One day, the sorcerer god would return and lead the sorcerer tribe to the top of the Yulong mainland. The sorcerer god had once promised that he would return after 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, the sorcerer god would definitely return. Wu Qing had been taught this philosophy since she was young. She dared to say this because she had never seen the sorcerer god in person and thought that he was just a legend. However, when she saw her aunt, whom she had admired since she was young, and who was always high and mighty in front of everyone, actually kneeling before the peerlessly beautiful young lady beside Lan Su, and addressing her as the sorcerer goddess, Wu Qing was completely dumbfounded. Wu, sorcerer god. Aunt, what did you say? She is the sorcerer god? No matter how unhappy she was, Wu Qing still turned to look at Yun Jian, and asked Wu Lan in shock in front of everyone. Not only Wu Qing, but even the group of young men and women standing behind Wu Qing were all dumbfounded. Qing, or don't be rude. If you point your finger at the sorcerer god again, you will be expelled from the sorcerer tribe. When Wu Lan saw her niece pointing at Yun Jian, she quickly stood up and grabbed Wu Qing's hand, kneeling down in front of Yun Jian with Wu Qing. Seeing that the sorcerer tribe leader was so scared that she directly knelt down in front of Yun Jian, the group of juniors of the sorcerer tribe were so scared that they all knelt down one by one. This was the reputation of the sorcerer god. These juniors might not know, but Wu Lan had been the clan leader for thousands of years. Wu Lan and the elders behind Wu Lan clearly remembered what the sorcerer god had done in the past. When the sorcerer god was alive, the sorcerer tribe would prosper. When the sorcerer god was dead, the sorcerer tribe would fall. Therefore, Wu Lan and the others were extremely respectful towards the sorcerer god. Yun Jian stood in front of a group of people. She narrowed her eyes and watched as the group of people knelt before her. When Lan Su, who was standing beside Yun Jian, saw this, she also turned around and walked towards Yun Jian. Then, she gently placed her hands in front of her chest and bowed deeply towards Yun Jian. At the same time, Lan Su shouted in a very emotional tone, "I, the sorcerer god, am upholding the promise from 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years later, I return to the sorcerer tribe. Sorcerer god, sorcerer god, sorcerer god." With the sorcerer tribe leader Wu Lan leading the group of people gradually shouted. In an instant, their shouts shook the sky. Yun Jian looked at the scene in front of her and felt that it was déjà vu. However, at this moment, a woman dressed as a maid suddenly rushed over from the side. After the woman rushed here, she lay on the ground, as if she was paralyzed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Before she fainted, she shouted her last words, "Master, I'm sorry." Chapter 1175. After the woman finished her last sentence, she completely fainted. The crowd, who had been full of vigor, was furious when they heard that the Morong family had come to cause trouble again. 1,000 years ago, the Morong family was only a small aristocratic family. Their status was so high that people could ignore them. However, ever since the sorcerer god had fallen, the Morong family had climbed from a small aristocratic family to one of the 4 great aristocratic families of the Yulong continent. Now, the Morong family's status had almost surpassed that of the number 1 aristocratic family of the Yulong continent. The sorcerer tribe had fallen. The sorcerer tribe had now been reduced to a small aristocratic family. As a once prosperous aristocratic family, the Morong family loved to bully the sorcerer tribe members. As the saying goes, there is no harm if there is no comparison. To the Morong family members, 1,000 years ago, the Morong family could not be compared to the sorcerer tribe. Now the once prosperous sorcerer tribe had fallen to their current state. Now the sorcerer tribe could not be compared to the Morong family. This stark contrast allowed the Morong family members to rejoice in their success. Hence, the Morong family members loved to cause trouble for the sorcerer tribe members. They even treated the lives of the sorcerer tribe members as child's play, and killed them as they pleased. Some of the Morong family members had even raped the young girls of the sorcerer tribe in public. This was because compared to other families, the women of the sorcerer tribe cared more about their reputation. In the sorcerer tribe, if a woman held hands with a stranger, she would be punished. If she lost her chastity, the woman could only marry the man who had taken her chastity. Otherwise, she would kill the man, or she would commit suicide. It was because they knew this that the Morong family members loved to defile the young girls of the sorcerer tribe. As the leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wulan had no way and no power to stop them. This was because the sorcerer tribe was no longer the prosperous aristocratic family they had been 1,000 years ago. If they could not bear it, they could openly oppose the Morong family. Then, the sorcerer tribe would not only be humiliated, but they would also be destroyed. If the Morong family wanted to deal with the sorcerer tribe, it would be a piece of cake. Clan leader, so many young girls of the sorcerer tribe have been defiled. This time, we can't take it anymore. Just as the woman finished speaking, someone stepped forward and spoke loudly. At the same time, this person's eyes were filled with tears. The sorcerer tribe members of the sorcerer tribe were mostly sorcerer tribe. Most of the sorcerer tribe were women. There were also men, but not many of them. Most of them were women. Moreover, the women of the sorcerer tribe were very pure. This was because the sorcerer tribe had a rule that forbade any woman from getting close to any man before marriage. However, the Morong family's actions had forced the sorcerer tribe into a dead end. Therefore, the people of the sorcerer tribe yearned for the sorcerer tribe to prosper, as much as they yearned for the return of the sorcerer god. Wulan clenched her fists tightly. At that moment, a clear female voice rang out. The Morong clan? Is it the clan that sent people to assassinate Lan Su? Everyone turned to look at Yun Jian when they heard her voice. This was the first time Yun Jian had spoken since she returned to the shaman tribe. Everyone looked at Yun Jian. Lan Su, who was standing in front of Yun Jian, nodded. Yes, the Morong family was the one who sent people to assassinate me. But in the end, Adam blocked the knife and the gun for her, and suffered a very serious injury. Hearing Yun Jian speak, everyone turned to look at her. Chapter 1176. Did Yun Jian mean that she was going to attack? The sorcerer goddess was going to attack? The people from the sorcerer tribe were all stunned. They stared at Yun Jian, as if they had seen their savior. Siyi, who stood beside Yun Jian, had a faint glint in his eyes. He suddenly arched a brow as if he had a plan in mind. Right now, Yun Jian was standing in front of everyone with an imposing aura. Her red lips curled into a chuckle. Lead the way. Yun Jian's aura was very strong. Even though she did not have any spiritual power, no one could ignore her aura. She was like a king. Sorcerer goddess, follow me. Wulan quickly stood up and walked in front to lead the way for Yun Jian. Just like that, the group of people went to the side courtyard in a grandiose manner. At this moment in the side courtyard of the sorcerer tribe, it was a gloomy place surrounded by a bamboo forest. From time to time, the sound of birds chirping could be heard. In front of the side courtyard, a few well-dressed young men were holding 3 or 4 young girls from the sorcerer tribe and touching them. Ha, run. Run again. Let's see where you can run to. Little beauty, just give in to me, ha. One of the most luxuriously dressed young men stopped a young witch dressed in black and began to grope her. Go away. Don't touch me. The young girl from the sorcerer tribe cried out in despair. Then, the young girl from the sorcerer tribe wanted to rush to the wall and protect her innocence with her death. Other than cultivating spiritual power, the people from the Yulong mainland had the same physical body as the people from Earth. They would die if they hit the wall. However, before the young girl from the sorcerer tribe could rush over, the chubby young man grabbed her hand and said, He, little beauty, I haven't had my fun yet. How can I let you die? The young man grabbed the young girl from the sorcerer tribe's hand and pushed her down, tearing her dress. Before the chubby hand could reach the young girl from the sorcerer tribe, the young man suddenly felt a strong force kick his waist. Then, the young man was sent flying by the strong force. Bam! The young man did not even have the chance to react before he was kicked far away by Yunjian, who suddenly appeared. Ah! Puffed! The young man was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. The other young men from the Morong family, who wanted to defile the pure young girl from the sorcerer tribe, were stunned. They were all shocked by Yunjian's appearance. "Little beauty, who are you?" One of the young masters was the first to react. When he saw Yunjian's pretty face, he nearly drooled. The young man from the sorcerer tribe, who was kicked by Yunjian, stood up in less than 2 seconds. Looking at Yunjian's beautiful face, the young man's heart was itching. However, when he thought of Yunjian's kick, he wanted revenge no matter what. Thus, the young man wiped the blood from his mouth and said angrily to Yunjian, "Where did this little beauty come from? How dare you kick me? I'll teach you a lesson." As he spoke, the young man gathered his spiritual power and attacked Yunjian. Lan Su Wu Lan and the rest who were following behind were shocked when they saw this. Yunjian did not have any spiritual power. The sorcerer god had just returned. How could she fight against the Morong family? However, just as the young man gathered his spiritual power, his fist was already in front of Yunjian. Chapter 1177. The moment the young man gathered his spiritual energy and hurled it at Yunjian with the spiritual energy that only existed in Yulong mainland, Yunjian was stunned. Just when he was 3 meters away from Yunjian, the spiritual power surrounding the young master suddenly disappeared. However, the young master's fist was already swinging towards Yunjian, and he could not retract it. In the Yulong continent, spiritual power was the most important thing. As a citizen of the Yulong continent, they only had one more spiritual power than the people of Earth. In other aspects, the people of the Yulong continent were no different from the people of Earth. In other words, if the people of the Yulong continent suddenly lost their spiritual power, coupled with the fact that the people of the Yulong continent relied on their spiritual power and did not have much physical training, the people of the Yulong continent, who lost their spiritual power, were even weaker than the people of Earth. The young master looked strong because of his spiritual power. However, when he was less than 3 meters away from Yunjian, his spiritual power suddenly disappeared. It was as if the young master had suddenly become an earthling without spiritual power. He was even weaker than the people of Earth in terms of physical strength. He was even weaker than the people of Earth. For such a person to be in the hands of Yunjian, who was known for her decisiveness in killing, it was easier than killing an ant. Everyone present was dumbfounded. However, in the next second, they saw the young master being kicked by Yunjian into a huge rock far away. His internal organs were smashed, and he died on the spot. Everyone was stunned by this scene. However, what shocked everyone was that Yunjian's ruthless skills were only one of the reasons. The most important point was that there was only one person in the world who could make anyone from the Yulong continent lose all their spiritual power within 3 meters of them. That person, she was Sorcerer Goddess. Sorcerer Goddess has returned. Sorcerer Goddess, please ensure the prosperity of the sorcerer tribe forever. Sorcerer Goddess. Sorcerer Goddess. In an instant, the people from the sorcerer tribe who came along all screamed. Their shouts shook the sky. Sorcerer Goddess had really returned. Because of Yunjian's move just now, she was able to make anyone from the Yulong continent lose their spiritual power within 3 meters of her. This was the essence of the Sorcerer Goddess. The reason why the Sorcerer Goddess in her previous life was so strong was because of her unique physique. As for the second reason, it was because of her strong spiritual power. However, Yunjian, who did not have spiritual power, was unrivaled in the Yulong continent. Of course, she could make anyone from the Yulong continent lose their spiritual power within 3 meters of her, turning them into an earthling like her. Based on this alone, Yunjian was unrivaled in Yulong mainland. This was the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. She was the reason why she was strong. The sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer goddess. At this moment, The young masters of the Morong family looked as if they had eaten dog poop. Who in the sorcerer goddess in the sorcerer goddess? In the Yulong continent, who did not know that the sorcerer god had a physique that could make people within 3 meters lose all their spiritual power in an instant? However, the young lady in front of them was actually the sorcerer goddess. This was too inconceivable, wasn't it? However, just as the people present were beginning to accept this fact, Ce, who was standing beside Yunjian, suddenly pulled Yunjian into his arms. Seeing this, the people from the sorcerer tribe widened their eyes. The sorcerer goddess had always been alone. Who was this man? How could he pull the sorcerer goddess into his arms? However, before the crowd could react, Ce stretched out his hand. He stretched out his hand and used a spiritual power that was enough to destroy the entire Yulong continent to grab the young masters of the Morong clan. In the next second, the young masters of the Morong clan were smashed into a river of blood by Ce's mental strength. A few living people, not even a single bone was left. They were crushed into blood on the spot by someone's mental power. The people from the sorcerer tribe widened their eyes in fear. It was also at this moment that Ce, who was holding Yunjian, broke into a smile. His mask was ordinary, but it could not hide his radiance. In the next second, Ce looked at Yunjian tenderly. His gaze was gentle as he spoke softly in the most pleasant voice in the world, uttering the most touching words. Xiao Jian, I'm willing to use the fall of the Morong clan as a betrothal gift to marry you. After that, a powerful marriage contract formation gathered beneath Ce and Yunjian's feet to form a 5-star formation and opened up abruptly. It was a force stronger than the sorcerer goddess. Chapter 1178. What did Ce say just now? He said that he was willing to use the fall of the Morong family as a betrothal gift to marry Yunjian? The first sentence was the main point, and the second sentence was also the main point. He actually had the ability to destroy the Morong family? This man actually had the ability to destroy the Morong family? Wu Lan and the surrounding elders were all dumbfounded. After thousands of years of development, the Morong family had flourished to a new level. But Ce actually said he wanted to use the fall of the Morong family as a betrothal gift to marry Yunjian? He needed to have the ability to destroy the entire Yulong mainland to be able to do that. Unless he came from the god's mainland. As for the second sentence, it was even more unbelievable. He actually wanted to marry the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe? The sorcerer goddess had found a spouse? The sorcerer goddess, who had been alone for thousands of years, had found a spouse. There was nothing more shocking than this. However, at this moment, no one was more shocked than Lan Su. Ce had a human skin mask on his face, but Lan Su knew that Ce was the Lord Immortal. The Lord Immortal was really going to marry the sorcerer goddess? Lan Su knew about the Lord Immortal. He was a supreme existence in the god's mainland that controlled all the continents. It could be said that in the entire universe, no one was more powerful than the Lord Immortal. The exit from the Yulong mainland to Earth had been created by the Lord Immortal by tearing space apart. This was something that was impossible in the universe, but the Lord Immortal had done it. Under the crowd's gaze, the 5-star light array beneath Ce and Yunjian's feet grew bigger and bigger. This 5-star light array was the marriage contract array. Under the crowd's gaze, the 5-star light array grew bigger and bigger until its light enveloped the entire world. To be able to cause such a huge light during the marriage contract, it was enough to show that the two people who were going through the marriage contract were kings among men. The light completely enveloped Yunjian and Ce, and a loud explosion was heard. The people standing around widened their eyes in shock. Only the marriage of two extremely powerful people could create such a huge 5-star light array. The 5-star light array that Ce had triggered was probably the entire Yulong mainland. No, it had never appeared on any continent in the entire universe. Oh my god! Someone exclaimed. Ce and Yunjian's figures were completely enveloped by the 5-star light array. Adam and Mawson were also surprised. Lan Su was so shocked that she couldn't control herself. Could this man be from the god's continent? Someone exclaimed in shock. To the people of the Yulong continent and other continents, the deity continent was the place where the gods lived. was. There was once a rumor that the sorcerer god came from the deity's continent, but this rumor had never been proven. At this moment, the radiance of the light array began to fade, and the two figures became clear. Above the two of them, two silver marriage contract rings condensed. After a while, the two silver marriage contract rings flew into Yunjian and Siyi's hands. The dazzling light gradually disappeared. A human skin mask fell to the ground. Siyi's mask had fallen off. At that moment, Siyi's perfect and handsome face attracted everyone's attention. His face was cold, aloof and deep, giving people the feeling that he was a king. At that moment, Wu Lan and the others immediately knelt down in front of Siyi when they saw his face. Wu Lan and the others were even more shocked than when they saw Yun Jian and the return of the sorcerer god. Wu Lan's eyes widened, and she was so scared that she fell to the ground and exclaimed to Siyi, "Lord! Lord Immortal!" Chapter 1179. Auntie! Auntie! Wu Qing was taken aback by her aunt's action. When she came back to her senses, she glanced at Siyi's enraged face and felt a tinge of jealousy toward Yun Jian, who was protected in his arms. This man was so handsome, so that ordinary face just now was fake. Wu Qing was shocked when she heard how Wu Lan addressed Siyi. In the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer god was the most commonly remembered name. But who didn't know about the Lord God? If the sorcerer god was a mythical figure, then the Lord God was like the gods in the modern world. He was an existence that was impossible to come into contact with. That was why Wu Qing only reacted after being stunned for a while. It was only then that Wu Qing and her friends knelt down in front of Siyi. Lord God, you. As the leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan had always been a calm and steady person. But when she saw Siyi, she completely lost control. God. The man who forced the sorcerer god to sign a marriage contract with her was the Lord God. The Lord God. Wu Lan had lived for so many years. She was lucky enough to see Siyi at an anniversary ceremony 1,000 years ago. At that time Siyi, who was the Lord God, was personally welcomed by the most powerful king of the Yulong continent. Wu Lan trembled in fear when she recalled the scene. Even when the most authoritative king of the Yulong continent said something wrong, a protector by the Lord Divine Lord's side immediately crippled the most authoritative king of the Yulong continent on the spot. The king of the Yulong continent was replaced. At that time, this incident was considered a major event that shook the entire Yulong continent. The ruler of the Yulong continent was the king, and this king was chosen from a competition among all the strong people of the Yulong continent. He was the most powerful person in the Yulong continent. Of course, the sorcerer god was not interested in the competition for the throne of the Yulong continent. Otherwise, the king would not have been able to sit on the throne. However, even this king of the Yulong continent had to bow and scrape in front of the Lord Divine Lord. Even the previous king had been crippled by the Lord Divine Lord's protector, just because he said one wrong thing in front of the Lord Divine Lord. At that time, Wu Lan was also present. She knelt below and clearly heard the reckless king say to the Divine Lord, the witch god of the sorcerer tribe, "She did not attend the ceremony today. She definitely won't come." With just this one sentence, the Lord Divine Lord had directly ordered the protector beside him to cripple this king. At that time, Wu Lan found it strange as well. Why did the Lord God depose the king of the Yulong continent just because of this one sentence? But now it seemed that Lord Divine Lord forcefully entered into a marriage contract with Lord Sorcerer God. Could it be that the Divine Lord had already taken a liking to the Sorcerer God thousands of years ago? Thinking of this, Wu Lan almost jumped up from the ground. But back then, the Divine Lord and the Sorcerer God had never even met alone. How could it be? Wu Lan looked at Yun Jian and Siyi with a complicated look in her eyes. She saw Siyi gently lift Yun Jian's small hand. Then, he gave a charming smile and opened his mouth in front of everyone, declaring his sovereignty without hesitation. Chapter 1180. After Siyi finished speaking, his lips curled up slightly. He would only reveal such a gentle expression when he was looking at Yun Jian. Seeing Siyi like this, Even Wu Lan's old bones trembled. She was obviously shocked by Siyi's expression. The Sir Immortal, who came from the deity continent, and was extremely famous even in the deity continent, could actually smile at a woman? This was even more unbelievable than the flood in the Yulong continent. Yun Jian had not spoken since the beginning, but her eyes were fixed on Ce with a hint of gentleness in them. It had to be said that Yun Jian's heart had silently approved of this. Especially when she held the ring on her finger, her heart skipped a beat. A feeling that she had never felt before filled her heart. It was a warm feeling. Just as Wu Lan and the rest thought that Yun Jian would say something, they heard Yun Jian softly agree. Then she blushed. The sorcerer goddess was blushing? The surrounding people all looked on in a daze, unable to react for a while. Even Mo's son, who was standing at the side, could not help but sigh at this scene. His young master's actions were so fast. However, at this moment, Ce held Yun Jian's small hand and turned to look at Wu Lan. His tall figure made people tremble just by looking at him. After a pause, just as Wu Lan knelt in front of Ce and was so frightened by Ce's aura that she did not dare to move, Ce's cold voice sounded. Morong clan lead the way. Hearing Ce's words, Wu Lan and the rest of the sorcerer tribe quickly understood. Was the Sir Immortal going to stand up for the sorcerer tribe? The Morong clan was definitely done for this time. For thousands of years, the Morong clan had humiliated the innocent girls of the sorcerer tribe, to the point that both humans and gods were furious. This time, the sorcerer goddess had returned. The Sir Immortal had also become the sorcerer goddess's man. The Morong clan was finished. Wu Lan quickly stood up and led the way like the wind, leading everyone to the Morong family. She could not wait to destroy the Morong family. The members of the shaman tribe hated the Morong family to the core. At this moment, in front of the main hall of the Morong family, there were many people sitting here. There were both men and women, but most of them were older. There were also a few younger ones. These young people were undoubtedly the hope of the Morong family's new generation. At that moment, an old man who appeared to be in his 40s was sitting at the very top of the Morong family. He was, without a doubt, the head of the Morong family, Morong Jing. At this moment, Morong Jing was sitting at the top, looking down at the group of people below. "You are where's Huar?" Morong Jing asked solemnly, as he turned to look at a young man with decent looks. He patriarch him? He brought people to the shaman tribe. He said that he wanted to find a clean girl from the shaman tribe, to have some fun with. The young man called Yuer laughed cruelly, and spoke in an extremely lascivious manner. This person's name was Morongyu. He often went to the shaman tribe to persecute poor girls. I told you not to go to the shaman tribe to cause trouble. You better take it easy in the future. If one day, the sorcerer goddess of the shaman tribe returns, When Morong Jing mentioned the sorcerer goddess of the shaman tribe, his voice trembled with fear. However, before Morong Jing could finish speaking, Morongyu snatched the right to speak. Hey patriarch, where did this sorcerer goddess come from? If the shaman tribe really had a sorcerer goddess, how could they have fallen to their current state? Those girls from the shaman tribe are really clean. TSK, I don't even want to get out of their bed. Morongyu spoke even more impudently. Chapter 1181. Don't talk nonsense. The sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe has never lied. Morong Jing was obviously much more mature than Morongyu. He frowned and said, Morong Jing had already existed when the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe existed. However, at that time, Morong Jing was a person with no status at all. Therefore, he was not qualified to see the sorcerer god, or the divine lord's true appearance. However, even if he had never seen the sorcerer god, or the divine lord's true appearance, Morong Jing had heard a lot about them. The deeds of the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe could be considered a legend. Therefore, Morong Jing was secretly afraid when he saw his juniors treat the sorcerer tribe members like this. If the sorcerer god came back one day and saw this, wouldn't the Morong family be finished? Oh clan leader, what era is it now? What sorcerer god? I think it's just the sorcerer tribe's imagination. Besides, even if the sorcerer god comes back, what can she do? Ha ha ha. I don't believe that even if the sorcerer god comes back, with the sorcerer tribe's current ability, they will still obediently become our slaves. Morongyu said confidently. As he spoke, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. He was already thinking about how to play with the girls of the sorcerer tribe. However, just as Morongyu finished speaking, the door in front of the hall was suddenly kicked open by someone. Morongjing's eyelids twitched. He was so scared that he sat up straight. However, at this moment, a slender figure stopped and entered. Then, a tall figure followed this slender figure into the hall. Behind them, many people dressed as sorcerer tribe members walked in. When Morongjing saw this scene, his eyelids twitched, and he couldn't help but stand up. When he saw Yunjian and Ce, who were the first to enter, Morongjing frowned. He had never seen the sorcerer god, let alone had the right to see the divine lord. Therefore, Morongjing didn't recognize them at all. When he saw the clan leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan, who was standing behind Yunjian and Ce, Morongjing stood up and walked over. Wu Lan, why did you bring a group of people and barge into the Morong family today? Morongjing naturally had to show the imposing manner of a clan leader. Especially now, the Morong family was no longer the family with no status. The Morong clan was now one of the 4 aristocratic families of the Yulong continent. His status was different from before. Morongjing's imposing voice made many of the Morong family members present feel respect for him. Their Murong family's patriarch was indeed different. Whether it was in terms of aura or strength, they were not to be underestimated. The Morong clan was indeed a dragon among men. As the Morong clan's influence grew, it wouldn't be long before they surpassed the number 1 family in the Yulong continent, and truly became the number 1 family in the Yulong continent. At that time, they would completely turn the women of the shaman tribe into the Morong family's slaves. Aside from being clean and pure, the women of the shaman tribe were all very beautiful. That was why the Morong tribe liked to attack the shaman tribe. However, just as Morongjing was about to scold Wu Lan, another crisp female voice rang out. That's right, Wu Lan. Why, today, I will destroy the Morong family on behalf of the shaman tribe. Chapter 1182. Yunjian's words made Morongjing's brows furrow tightly. Looking at the teenage girl in front of him, Morongjing felt that this girl's aura was far above his own. Morongjing's intuition told him that he couldn't afford to offend her. You are. Morongjing frowned and asked softly. However, just as Morongjing asked this question, Yunjian suddenly smiled. Before Yunjian could say anything, the sorcerer tribe standing behind her shouted excitedly, Sorcerer God! Sorcerer God! Sorcerer God! The sorcerer tribe members were extremely excited at this moment. All sorcerer tribe members hated the Morong family to the core. Even many of the sorcerer tribe women standing here had been violated by the Morong family members. Many of them had lost their virginity because of the Morong family's men. The sorcerer tribe members hated the Morong family so much that they couldn't bear it anymore. In the Yulong continent, the survival of the fittest, the strong were respected, and the weak were bullied. This philosophy was deeply rooted. At this moment, Morongjing suddenly heard the sorcerer tribe members call Yunjian the sorcerer god. He was so scared that his entire body stiffened. Your master sorcerer goddess? Morongjing pointed at Yunjian, unable to contain his shock. As for the group of people from the Morong family, they heard the sorcerer tribe members call Yunjian. A few of the younger generation didn't know the sorcerer god's ability back then. So at this moment, they all laughed loudly. Especially Morongyu. His laughter was especially intense. Ha ha ha. This girl is the sorcerer god? The legendary sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe? This is a joke, right? I thought the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe was an old woman. Did you sorcerer tribe members randomly find a beautiful girl to make up the numbers? Morongyu chuckled. At the same time, he looked at Yunjian with a lascivious gaze. Everyone present clearly saw the evilness that flashed through his eyes. Morongyu was staring at Yunjian's ravishing face with a malicious gaze before he cackled and said, That's right, Yunjian's pretty face. Little girl, you're so beautiful. Do you want to follow me? I guarantee that you'll have a good time. Before he could say the word heaven, Morongyu suddenly felt an invisible hand grab his throat and lift him up from the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Morongyu was startled. He desperately stretched out his hand, trying to break free from the invisible palm. Not far away, Ce stretched out his hand and used his spiritual power to lift Morongyu up from the ground. Do you think a piece of trash like you can covet my woman? Ce said coldly. As he spoke, a terrifying killing intent flashed across his eyes. Sorcerer God, Lord Divine Lord, please uphold justice for our sorcerer tribe. We'll return the humiliation that we've suffered for thousands of years to the Morong family. Wulan stood behind Ce. At the same time, she directly knelt down in front of Yun Jian and Ce and shouted loudly. Everyone from the sorcerer tribe knelt down in front of Yun Jian and Ce and shouted with all their might. Sorcerer God, Lord Divine Lord, please uphold justice for our sorcerer tribe. We'll return the humiliation that we've suffered for thousands of years to the Morong family. The sorcerer tribe members shouted with all their might. For a moment, their shouts could be said to have broken through the sky. In spite of it, be it Morongyu who was choked by Ce's mental strength, Morong Jing, the head of the Morong family, or everyone else in the family, all of them were completely stupefied. God, your Lord Divine Lord. Morong Jing looked at Ce and was so frightened that he knelt down on the spot. Chapter 1183. One was the Lord God, and the other was the Sorcerer God. No matter which one it was, they were all well known in the Yulong continent. There were even some children who were unwilling to cultivate spiritual power. Their parents would use such words to scare their children. If you don't want to cultivate spiritual power, fine. Children who don't cultivate spiritual power will be eaten by the Lord God and the Sorcerer God. The Lord God and the Sorcerer God had already become frightening existences in the entire Yulong continent. Because of their strength, compared to the Sorcerer God, the Lord God was indeed from the God's continent. What was the God's continent? The God's continent was the place that directly controlled the life and death of all continents. There were also people who said that the Sorcerer God came from the gods because of his strength. Morong Jing had heard of this before, so he was afraid of the Sorcerer God whenever he heard the name, because he had heard that the Sorcerer God had torn a god from the God's continent into two halves. The God's continent. It wasn't hard to imagine that the people from the God's continent were all gods. That was the place where people were immortal and indestructible. That was also the place where the gods lived. However, a god from the God's continent had been torn into two halves by the Sorcerer God with one hand and died on the spot. Killing a god with one hand. It was also from then on that the name of the Sorcerer God spread. That was why Morong Jing was so scared when he heard the name of the Sorcerer God. That was why the Sorcerer God had become a terrifying existence in the hearts of countless people in the Yulong continent. As for the Lord God, there were rumors that the Lord God was the ruler of the God's continent. There were also rumors that the Lord God was the son of the king of the God's continent. No matter which continent, the ruler was called the king. There were many legends about the Lord God. Since the existence of the Yulong continent, the Lord God had never come to the Yulong continent more than 3 times. To the Lord God, this was a person that only existed in fantasy. Therefore, when Morong Jing heard that Ce was Lord Deity, the shock he felt was undeniable. God, Lord God, spare. Cough, spare my life. Morongyu, who was suspended in the air by Ce's mind power, finally believed it. He had never felt such a powerful force. Such a powerful force was enough to destroy the entire Yulong continent. Morongyu started to get scared, so he begged Ce for mercy. Do you think I'll let you off the hook for coveting my woman? Ce sneered. His handsome face attracted everyone's attention. No one had paid attention to Ce's words. Everyone was shocked by Ce's identity. Lord Divine Lord actually came here personally. Everyone present trembled in fear when they heard this. They didn't even think about what Ce had said. However, everyone present had clearly heard Ce's words. My woman, could it be the Sorcerer God? Lord Divine Monarch and Lord Sorcerer? It was then that Morong Jing's attention was drawn to the pair of silver rings on Yun Jian and Siyi's fingers that were obviously a pair. You've signed a marriage contract. Morong Jing was so scared that his whole body twitched. Lord Divine Lord and Lord Sorcerer God were married. Then Lord Divine Lord was one of the Sorcerer tribe? He thought about how the Morong family had dealt with the Sorcerer tribe. Morong Jing suddenly fell to the ground as if he was paralyzed. The words that came out of his mouth made everyone in the Morong family fall into despair. Retribution! Retribution! The Morong family is doomed to be destroyed. Some of the younger generation were still unconvinced when they heard their clan leader say this. However, just as the younger generation was about to voice their dissatisfaction, Siyi grabbed Morong Yu's hand and squeezed it with his bare hand. Pfft! Morong Yu was lifted into the air and crushed. Not even his bones were left. He exploded into a river of blood in an instant. Seeing this bloody scene, the unconvinced younger generation of the Morong family were so scared that they all trembled and huddled together. Chapter 1184. Everyone present was shocked by the scene in front of them. Siyi had actually crushed a living person so cruelly. Not even his bones were left behind. How powerful must he be to be able to do such a thing? He hadn't even gotten close to Morong Yu's body. He had crushed Morong Yu's entire body from a distance. Clan leader, save us. Clan leader, save us. The younger generation of the Morong family all gathered behind Morong Jing and desperately begged for help. They couldn't stop trembling. We were wrong. We won't dare to lay our hands on the Sorcerer tribe anymore. Clan leader, please save us. Please save us. The younger generation of the Morong family were so frightened that they almost peed their pants. At this moment, they were all hiding behind Morong Jing and desperately begging for protection. When they had laid their hands on the innocent young girls of the Sorcerer tribe, the younger generation of the Morong family had never shown mercy. A cruel murderous intent flashed in Yun Jian's eyes. She had not come to the Yulong mainland for the Sorcerer tribe. She had heard that the mysterious person behind the Inferno Ring had come from the Yulong mainland. However, when she saw the Sorcerer tribe being humiliated by the Morong family at this moment, she had a sudden urge to wipe out the entire Morong family. It was as if her bottom line had been violated. Today, I will use the blood of the Morong family to wash away the humiliation that the Sorcerer tribe has suffered for thousands of years. Yun Jian said coldly. At the same time, she pulled out the indestructible butterfly knife that she had obtained from Satana. Once the scabbard was unsheathed, Yun Jian swung the butterfly knife and easily pointed it at the Morong family members in front of her. Her cold eyes seemed to have a strange luster, causing the younger generation of the Morong family to tremble. They were so frightened that their bodies twitched for a while. In spite of it, it was not Yun Jian's action that alarmed the Morong family. It was when Morong Jing saw the knife in Yun Jian's hand, his paralyzed body, which had been sitting on the ground, suddenly pulled himself together. That blade is the God-vanquishing blade. When Morong Jing saw the saber in Yun Jian's hand, he was as scared as a pug, and was filled with awe. How is this possible? This God-vanquishing blade is only a legendary artifact. Rumor has it that the person who possesses it can kill the gods of the gods continent with his bare hands. Let's not talk about the Yulong continent. Even in the deity continent, the only one who can resist is probably the Lord Divine Lord. Morong Jing looked at the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand and was so scared that his whole body twitched. After hearing Morong Jing's words, the people around them all turned pale with fright. Everyone in the Yulong continent had heard of the Godslayer blade because it was a legendary artifact. Those who possessed it could even kill gods from the gods' continent at will. Therefore, when they heard what Morong Jing said, they all straightened their bodies. The God-vanquishing blade was a legendary divine weapon. It was just like the legendary treasures of the immortals on Earth. It was something that did not exist in this world. It was a legendary item. But today it actually appeared. With Morong Jing as the leader, everyone from the Morong family and the witch tribe were stunned. Yun Jian was also a little shocked, but she never showed it on her face. She did not expect that the family heirloom of the Satana family was a divine weapon from the gods' continent. A divine weapon that could kill gods. Chapter 1185. Yun Jian did not notice the gentle look in Si Yi's eyes. She was holding the knife with her right hand, and was in a daze. The God-vanquishing blade referred to the God-vanquishing blade of this butterfly knife. This was because the original knife was not a butterfly knife, but a dagger. It had turned into a butterfly knife, because Satana had personally made this dagger into a butterfly knife. Yun Jian had initially thought that this knife was only handy and extremely sharp. Now it seemed that this was not the case. God-vanquishing blade? Why did she feel like she had heard this name somewhere before? Then Yun Jian's eyes flashed. She suddenly thought of Si Yi's actions just now. He did not lose his powers. He even forcefully activated the marriage contract array and forced her to sign a marriage contract with him. Yun Jian's face turned slightly red at the thought of this. However, she quickly regained her senses. She was about to ask Si Yi when she paused. After all, there were too many people here. Some things were not easy to ask. Furthermore, the Morong family members were still alive and well in this world. When Morong Jing saw the God-vanquishing blade in Yun Jian's hand, he felt even more hopeless. He thought about how the Morong family had committed crimes against the sorcerer tribe for thousands of years. Was it really going to fall today? Just as Morong Jing was thinking about this, Wu Lan and the rest of the sorcerer tribe were extremely excited. The sorcerer god had returned with glory. The glorious era of the sorcerer tribe was about to arrive. Sorcerer god, Sir Divine Lord, please uphold justice for the sorcerer tribe. We will return the humiliation that we have suffered for thousands of years to the Morong family. With Wu Lan as the leader, the rest of the sorcerer tribe looked at Yun Jian and Si Yi. They knelt down again and shouted in unison. The humiliation that the sorcerer tribe had suffered would be returned to the Morong family today. When Yun Jian heard the shouts of the sorcerer tribe behind her, she suddenly placed the blade of the butterfly knife in front of her. Then her red lips curled into a red arc. She simply blurted out a word that would determine the fate of the Morong family. Kill! With the Lord Shaman and Lord Divine Lord leading the battle between the shamans and the Morong clan was about to begin. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the sorcerer tribesmen who were kneeling behind Yun Jian and Si Yi all stood up and charged into the Morong family with an imposing manner. As for the Morong clan, they were at a disadvantage from the very beginning because their momentum was weaker. However, just as the battle began and Yun Jian was about to step forward, Si Yi pulled Yun Jian back with her left hand. At the same time, Si Yi stretched out her right hand. Just like that, a huge invisible force was formed. His outstretched palm suddenly clenched. In the next second, a horrifying scene took place. Everyone in the Morong family seemed to have been lifted up by someone's hand. Even the head of the Morong family, Morong Jing, was no exception. Everyone was lifted up into the air and grabbed by their throats. In the next second, a pu sound was heard. Everyone in the Morong family was lifted up into the air, and Si Yi clenched his fist. In just an instant, the thousands of people in the Morong family were reduced to blood with a pu sound. Not even a single bone was left. Thousands of people were reduced to blood in an instant. Blood flowed like a river. The sorcerer tribesmen were stunned. While they were relieved that they were not from the Morong family, they could not help but panic at the power of the Lord Divine Lord. This was the dignity of a strong person. If he wanted to destroy an aristocratic family that had accumulated over thousands of years in the Yulong continent, he could do it with just a wave of his hand. Chapter 1186. Si Yi squeezed his hand and used his spiritual power to tear everyone in the Morong clan into a river of blood. The Morong clan was instantly shrouded in a river of blood. Anyone who had seen this scene would never forget it. Emo's son and Adam, who were standing on the side, hadn't spoken a word since a moment ago. However, Lan Su was excitedly grabbing Adam's hand at this moment. She didn't even realize that she was grabbing Adam's hand excitedly. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. She had waited for thousands of years. The great witch god had finally returned. The witch race had finally returned to its former glory days. There was a flower-like smile on Adam's face at this moment, because a certain tender little hand was grabbing her tightly, and she hadn't noticed it yet. Adam felt that his young master was particularly cool at this moment. He had tried every means to get Lan Su close to him some time ago, but he hadn't been able to do so. As a result, Ce had destroyed the Morong clan with a wave of his hand, and Lan Su had been tightly grabbing his hand this time. This feeling made Adam feel very good. Cough, the smell of blood here is too strong. I'll go out for a walk. Emo's son saw that Adam was grabbing Lan Su's tender hand in broad daylight. He almost choked. After coming back to his senses, Emo's son said this, then turned around and left the place, heading outside. Ce had destroyed everyone in the Morong clan. Then he pulled Yun Jian's little hand and left. The people of the witch race didn't dare to say anything when they saw this. Moreover, Ce and Yun Jian had already signed a marriage contract, so they were already husband and wife. The people of the witch race would naturally deal with the aftermath of the Morong clan's annihilation. News always spread the fastest in the Yulong continent. The news that the Morong clan had been annihilated had spread throughout the Yulong continent in less than an hour. The head of the 4 big clans of the Yulong continent was the #1 aristocratic clan of the Yulong continent, the Huyan clan. The Huyan clan was the #1 aristocratic clan of the Yulong continent. The Huyan clan had been famous for thousands of years like the witch race. However, the difference between the Huyan clan and the Shaman clan was that the Huyan clan had always been a famous aristocratic clan since 1,000 years ago. In fact, it had never declined. Moreover, the status of the Huyan clan was second only to that of the Shaman clan 1,000 years ago. Back then, the sorcerer tribe was the #1 family in the Yulong continent. No aristocratic family could surpass him. Therefore, the Huyan clan had become the #1 aristocratic family of the Yulong continent after the sorcerer race had declined. An old man in his 50s was sitting on a chair at the top of the Huyan clan's main hall. He was holding a walking stick. Many juniors were seated beside him. This 50-something-year-old man was the patriarch of the Huyan clan. His name was Huyan Ba. Huyan Ba was sitting at the top. He was frowning as he listened to the news that had just come from not far away. After a moment of silence, Huyan Ba finally opened his mouth. With the dignity of a patriarch, he calmly said, "What did you say? The Morong family was actually destroyed by the Shaman tribe?" The person who was standing not too far away to deliver the news replied without hesitation, "That's right. The Morong family has been destroyed. I don't know where the Shaman tribe got the ability to destroy the Morong family this time." The person remained silent for 2 seconds. Then he continued to speak. "There are rumors that the Lord Witch God of the Shaman tribe has returned. The people of the Morong clan who knew that the Lord Witch God and the Lord God had returned had all died. Therefore, this person was only guessing at the moment. He didn't have any concrete evidence. Impossible. How can the Lord Witch God return?" Morong Ba refuted this person in a decisive manner. Morong Ba didn't hold back since he had said this. Chapter 1187. The patriarch of the Huyan clan, Huyan Ba, had a long-term plan. The sorcerer race had already declined. However, eradicating the sorcerer race wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. It must be known that the sorcerer race had been the #1 aristocratic family in the Yulong continent for thousands of years. Eradicating the sorcerer race was even more difficult than eradicating the Morong clan. The reason why Huyan Ba didn't dare to act rashly was very simple. The Morong clan had been exterminated. Huyan Ba felt that the sorcerer race hadn't done this. He also didn't believe that the sorcerer god of the sorcerer race had returned. Therefore, there was only one explanation for the Morong clan's extermination. There was an 80% chance that the sorcerer race had joined forces with a powerful clan to eradicate the Morong clan. In other words, the sorcerer race had an expert helping them from behind. Therefore, Huyan Ba planned to take his time and planned to slowly eliminate the sorcerer race. Yun Jian and Ce didn't know what had happened in the Huyan clan. Even the people of the sorcerer race didn't know about it. Eradicating the Morong clan meant that the sorcerer race wouldn't be suppressed in the future. They could pick themselves up again. Yunjian and the others had been arranged to stay in the sorcerer race's most luxurious main hall. Yunjian and Ce were standing in a bamboo forest in the sorcerer race's main hall. Yunjian had taken the initiative to call Ce over. It was very quiet here. Even the people of the sorcerer race rarely came here. Yunjian raised her head and looked at Ce. She pursed her red lips. Then, she took out the butterfly knife made from the god-destroying blade and placed it in her hand. Yunjian slowly raised her head and looked at Ce. She wiped her red lips. Her beautiful face and clear eyes fascinated Ce. Yunjian paused for 2 seconds. Then she asked Ce, "Is this yours?" Yunjian raised her hand and shook the butterfly knife in her hand. "You gave this to me, didn't you?" She did not ask the latter question in a questioning tone. Instead, she spoke to Ce with certainty. She looked at Ce, only to see Ce raise his eyebrows. Hearing Yunjian's question, Ce would never hide the truth from Yunjian. He replied decisively, "Yes." At the same time, he reached out and pulled Yunjian into his embrace. Mesmerized by the girl's fresh and clean scent, Ce could not help lowering his head and bending down to Yunjian's ear, where her collarbone was, to savor her wonderful scent as he explained, "There's no need for that. I did forge the god-vanquishing blade into a butterfly knife, and asked Satana to pass it to you." In other words, Satana did not give his family heirloom to Yunjian. Compared to Satana's family heirloom, the god-vanquishing blade in Yunjian's hand was the true treasure. Compared to Satana's family heirloom, the blade of the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand was the true divine weapon. It was one of a kind in the world. It could be said that the two could not be compared at all. Ce had merely borrowed Satana's hand to pass the god-vanquishing blade that he had personally ordered his men to modify into a butterfly knife to Yunjian. Yunjian did not ask where Ce got the knife. She was suddenly touched that he had given her such a precious item without a word. Yunjian's heart warmed. Just as she was about to say something in gratitude, Ce's shameless words were heard. "Xiaojian, don't move. Let me touch you." Just as Yunjian reacted, she felt a large palm reaching under her shirt. It went around her bra to latch onto a soft part of her and pinched gently. Chapter 1188. Shameless. Yunjian wanted to scream right then and there. It had never crossed her mind that Ce, who looked dignified and handsome on the surface, who was completely uninterested in women, was hiding such a. Just as she thought about it, Yunjian felt a large palm clasping a certain P in front of her chest. The feeling was truly, "Let go." Yunjian did not hold Ce's hand, but she pushed Ce away with her flushed cheeks. As she spoke, she could not help blushing. How could Ce do as she wished? Finally, he had a lovely wife and he was a normal man now. If it were not for the fact that his Xiaojian was still young, he would have tortured her to the point where she could not get out of bed for days. "Be good, let me touch you." Ce pressed his lips to Yunjian's ear and blew softly. If there was someone standing behind Ce right now, they would only see Ce bending down slightly. His actions and demeanor all revealed his handsomeness. No one would have thought that the prim and proper Ce was doing something so embarrassing to Yunjian. "Don't. We're outside. Someone will come." Ce's action made Yunjian blush. She was certain that she had never done something so thrilling in her life. They were in the wild too. Although this was the territory of the witch tribe, the bamboo forest was near the mountain. They were in the wild with no one around, yet he was doing this to her. If someone were to see this, just as she thought about it, a voice rang out. "There's no one here. Come here and tell me." When Yunjian heard the voice, so did Ce who stood behind her. There was a glint in Ce's eyes. With a smirk, he wrapped his other arm around Yunjian's slender waist while his other hand was wrapped around the girl's bountiful bosom that had never been claimed by anyone, unwilling to withdraw. In the next second, when the person who spoke was about to lead another person over, Ce hugged Yunjian and darted into a bush that was as tall as a person not far away. Seeing that someone was really coming over, and Ce was rubbing a certain part of hers gently, Yunjian felt her face burning. As she thought about it, she peeked out from the bush and saw Lan Su and Wu Lan coming over. It was obvious that Wu Lan was the one who spoke just now. Wu Lan was the leader of the sorcerer tribe, and had led the sorcerer tribe for thousands of years. Hence, she had a lot of authority in the sorcerer tribe. Lan Su followed them. She and Wu Lan did not notice Yun Jian and Ce who were hiding in the bush. At this moment, Wu Lan walked over and turned to look at Lan Su. Suddenly, Wu Lan's gaze sharpened. At the same time, Wu Lan walked forward and grabbed Lan Su's hand, exposing Lan Su's wrist. However, Lan Su's wrist was white and tender. There was nothing on it. "Where's your chastity sand?" Wu Lan suddenly raised her voice. She sounded a little angry. Lan Su did not answer. She turned her head and looked to the side. After a long pause, Lan Su laughed mockingly and said, "What's the difference between having the chastity sand and not having it?" Wu Lan suddenly clenched her fists and frowned at Lan Su. "Have you forgotten the rules of the sorcerer tribe? Who is that man? Find him and kill him." "I did it willingly," Lan Su suddenly said. "Are you crazy?" Wu Lan roared at Lan Su. "I'm not crazy. Please don't come looking for me again. This is my business, and it has nothing to do with a stranger like you." Lan Su glanced at Wu Lan and prepared to leave. Chapter 1189. Wu Lan's last sentence made Yun Jian's eyelids twitch. She did not expect Wu Lan to be Lan Su's biological mother. Yun Jian did not have the sorcerer god's memories, so she did not know if the sorcerer god knew about this. But after hearing Wu Lan's words, Yun Jian was still shocked. At this moment, she had forgotten that a certain pig trotter was still doing evil to her. In the distance, Lan Su's wrist was grabbed by Wu Lan. When she heard Wu Lan's last sentence, Lan Su's entire body clearly froze. Then, Lan Su mercilessly slapped away Wu Lan's hand that was grabbing her wrist. She said to Wu Lan, "Who I want to be with is my business. From the moment you abandoned me and refused to acknowledge me, we no longer have anything to do with each other." With that, Lan Su walked away without looking back. Wu Lan, who was standing in the distance, froze. A pained expression covered her face. Just as Lan Su was about to leave, Wu Lan shouted in the direction where Lan Su was about to disappear. "It's fine if you don't acknowledge me. I'm the one who has wronged you, but you can't let our people know that you've lost your virginity." As a mother, this was her advice to Lan Su. Wu Lan knew that she was being selfish. She was the leader of the sorcerer tribe. She should have said this immediately, because this was the rule of the sorcerer tribe. But she could not let her daughter be in a dilemma. Wu Lan stood there and pondered for more than 10 minutes. In these 10 minutes, Yun Jian did not dare to make a sound. This allowed Ce to take advantage of her. After Wu Lan left, Ce brought Yun Jian out of the bushes. In spite of it, Yun Jian's top was disheveled. If anyone saw this, they would think that she and Ce had done something. By the time Yun Jian and Ce returned to the sorcerer tribe's main hall, the banquet had already begun. The people of Yulong continent still needed to eat and drink, just like the people on Earth. Apart from having a constitution that allowed one to cultivate, as well as being able to easily live for over 1,000 years, as long as one cultivated. His other physiques were exactly the same as those of the people on Earth. After dinner, Yun Jian asked Wu Lan some questions. She came here to find the whereabouts of the mysterious man. Moreover, Yun Jian did not intend to stay for long this time. Hearing that Yun Jian would soon return to Earth, Wu Lan and the people of the sorcerer tribe were disappointed. Wu Lan even asked symbolically, "Sorcerer God, will you return to the sorcerer tribe?" Wu Lan asked. Looking at Lan Su's pleading face, Yun Jian couldn't help but nod. "I'll come again." She came here just to inquire about the whereabouts of the mysterious man. She would leave after staying for a few days. While talking, Wu Lan promised Yun Jian to keep an eye on the whereabouts of the mysterious man. The dinner was soon over. When it was time for bed, Yun Jian slept in her own room. Ce slept in the main room as well, which was right beside Yun Jian's room. Just as Yun Jian pulled the blanket over herself and lay down, however, she felt herself being hugged by a firm chest. The familiar scent meant that the person who hugged her must be Ce. "What are you doing here?" Yun Jian blushed once she recalled what happened in the bamboo forest today, and pushed Ce away. Xiao Jian, it's our wedding night today. Where else can I go if I'm not here? Ce lifted Yun Jian's hand shamelessly, and looked at the matching ring on her finger, as he said matter-of-factly. Yun Jian's cheeks flushed at his words. In the next second, Ce pounced on Yun Jian, pressing himself on top of Yun Jian. A certain part of him was swollen and hot, pressing against her softness through their clothes. Xiao Jian, let's consummate our marriage. Ce's breathing quickened as he pressed himself on Yun Jian, his deep and magnetic voice ringing softly. Ce's current image was completely different from his usual aloof attitude toward others. Chapter 1190. While Yun Jian was drowning in shame, Ce's hand slid down her body to cup the girl's ample bosom again. Since Ce had signed a marriage contract with her, tonight was indeed their wedding night. In the dark, Yun Jian extended her hands and placed them on Ce's firm chest. Just as she placed her hands on Ce's chest, a sharp glint flashed in Ce's dark eyes. His Xiao Jian knew how to take the initiative now. Just as Ce thought about it, Yun Jian pressed her lips together. Her action was different from before. Even in the dark, Ce could clearly see Yun Jian's pursed lips. Her bashful action was like a young woman who had just gotten married. Ce was mesmerized. Be it in the past or now, the only person who could mesmerize him was his Xiao Jian. Ce was currently on top of Yun Jian, a certain swollen part of his body pressing against her soft hole. Despite being separated by 2 layers of clothes, it was unbearably hot. In the dark, Yun Jian's cheeks flushed even more. She turned her face to the side as she squirmed under Ce, bashfully like a young girl who had no experience in sex. Both of them were pressed together at a certain spot. Feeling it, Ce was close to spitting fire. Xiao Jian, don't move. Ce was at the limit of his tolerance. He was a normal man, facing the woman he loved, especially when they were pressed so close together. Yun Jian was still squirming. It was as if she was telling him to F*ck her. F*ck her. Yun Jian was about to speak, but Ce covered her lips with his. She did not close her eyes, but she could clearly see Ce's sharp eyes with long and narrow lashes. Ce kissed her for a while. Yun Jian's eyes were wide open throughout, blinking up and down. It was only when she was almost out of breath from the kiss that Ce let go of her lips. Yun Jian panted softly. At the same time, she could feel the chilliness on her upper body. She did not know when Ce had taken off her top, even her bra. His palms were large, but Yun Jian was well developed. His palm could not even cover one of her twin peaks. Yun Jian's cheeks felt like boiling water as she blushed in embarrassment. Ce went to Yun Jian's ear and coaxed her softly. Xiao Jian, call me by my name. She had never called him by his name before. He looked at Yun Jian expectantly while his hands never stopped moving. Yun Jian felt her breasts swell. She pushed Ce, but he could not get up. It was true that he was stronger than her. Yun Jian's cheeks were still flushed. When Ce went close to her side, she suddenly called out softly, "Hubby." Ce, who only wanted to hear Yun Jian call him by his name, was stupefied on the spot by the soft voice. What did she call him? While Ce was stunned, Yun Jian suddenly gave him a hard shove. Her push pushed Ce down, and she flipped over to straddle him, turning the position of being on top of a man from a woman's bottom to being on top of a woman from a man's bottom. Her lower body was still wearing pants, but her upper body was already naked. In spite of it, Ce was dressed neatly, as if he was a gentleman who came to watch a show. Yun Jian bent down and pressed her chest against Ce's chest. She removed Ce's top quickly and said with a smile, "Fair enough. I'm the one on top." Chapter 1191. It turned out that she had called him hubby, just now to distract him, so that she could turn the tables and take control of the situation. When Ce learned of Yun Jian's intention just now, he was not angry. Instead, he looked at Yun Jian with a smile. "Say it again," he told Yun Jian gently, not planning to press Yun Jian beneath him again. His Xiao Jian was the only one in this world who could distract him. Only his Xiao Jian was the only person in the world who could do whatever she wanted to him. Siyi thought that even if his Xiao Jian held a knife to his neck or killed him, he would dote on her without hesitation. Even if she were to wreak havoc in an Hun group, not only would he not stop her, he would even help her. Siyi had never thought that he would one day become like this for a woman. What are you shouting for? Yun Jian was suddenly playful. She sat on Siyi's upper body, their private parts pressed together with only 2 thin pieces of pants between them. Yun Jian, who was sitting on Siyi, purposely bent down to press her chest against his as she spoke, her waist moving her lower body and twisting it twice. Siyi was almost burning with lust. He grabbed Yun Jian's soft hand and pressed Yun Jian beneath him once more. Siyi's breathing was ragged as he panted with a smirk. All that was left in his eyes in the dark was his Xiao Jian. At the same time, Siyi bent down and stuck his face close to Yun Jian. His lips moved again as he uttered softly, "Xiao Jian, you're the one who started the fire. You'll extinguish it yourself this time." As Siyi spoke, he held both of Yun Jian's hands and raised them above her head with one hand, while his other tugged at Yun Jian's pants. "Don't!" Yun Jian cried softly. Her cry, however, made Siyi even more eager. When Yun Jian called him hubby, her soft voice made Siyi's lower body swell. He wanted to take off Yun Jian's clothes and shove his desire into a sweet cave. With that thought, Siyi did the same. He could not take it anymore. He could not take it anymore. His Xiao Jian, the Xiao Jian he loved so much. Now that his beloved Xiao Jian was lying half naked in front of him, he would not be a man if he could still hold himself back. At this moment, the words he had said to wait for her to come of age had long been thrown out of his mind. He wanted her. He wanted her. He wanted to combine his desire with her private parts, to make her truly and completely his woman. Yun Jian's don't just now fueled Siyi's ambition. His eyes were red as he reached out to rip off the pants that covered Yun Jian's beautiful legs. Other than the panties she was not wearing a single piece of clothing. Yun Jian was shaking when her last piece of underwear was ripped off. She pushed Siyi but did not reject him. If she was still a little resistant when Siyi touched her before, even if she was secretly looking forward to it, she had completely accepted it now. She loved him. It was a love that did not need words. It did not need to be mentioned all the time. When Yun Jian lay naked beneath him, Siyi finally could not hold it in anymore. Just as he unbuckled his belt and took off his pants, Yun Jian's voice rang out. Chapter 1192. Siyi was even more aroused by Yun Jian's initiative. He kicked the offending clothes to the floor and pounced on Yun Jian. He nibbled from her lips to her earlobes, and then to her collarbones before moving lower and lower until he reached the pair of plump softness. Looking at the softness, Siyi could not hold himself back as he bent down and kissed her. Yun Jian shuddered at the man's sudden intimacy with the maiden's untouched territory. In spite of it, she hugged Siyi back tacitly, unwilling to let go of him. "Xiao Jian." The last words were buried between his teeth as Siyi lowered his head and kissed the pea between her breasts effortlessly. His desire was once again delayed until it was pulled to the highest point. It was also at that moment that Yun Jian let out a moan that she did not even know what it was. In the end, Siyi held his lust against Yun Jian and was about to break through everything. He paused and bent down to kiss Yun Jian for a while before asking, "Xiao Jian, I'm going in." Yun Jian dared not look at Siyi, but she nodded. Needless to say, her rosy cheeks were flushed. Just as Siyi was about to enter, however, a shout came from outside the door. It was very untimely. "Young madam, something happened to Lan Su. Young master isn't in the room, so I'm here to look for you." He didn't need to listen to this familiar voice to know that the owner of this voice was Mo Senator Siyi, who was going to break through the last hurdle and make the person he loved completely his. Heard the voice that came at an untimely moment. He almost punched the bedsheets, resisting the urge to strangle Mo Senator Siyi's muffled voice rang out. "Go outside and wait." Mo's son did not enter the room. He stood outside the door and shouted into Yun Jian's room. He dared not enter the young madam's room casually. If he did, it would be strange if his young master did not kill him. However, When he heard his young master's voice coming from inside the room, Emo's son was completely stunned. He stood there stupidly, and the anxiety in his heart was instantly forgotten. For a moment he really couldn't react. "Get the hell away from me." This was one of the few times Ce lost his temper. Seeing that Emo's son was still outside the door, Ce growled again. At the same time, he was holding Yunjian's soft body, feeling impulsive. Just a little bit more, and Xiao Jian was going to be his woman. But in the end, he was interrupted by Emo's son. That stupid donkey. It was the first time Ce felt so impulsive. At the same time, his desire was swelling. It was also the first time Ce found Emo's son an eyesore. Before Emo's son, who was standing at the door, and realized that he seemed to have realized something terrible was going on, he stumbled when he heard Ce's growls. Eventually, he steadied himself and turned to walk away. Yunjian, who was pinned down by Ce, knew that it was not going to happen today. Seeing Ce's impulsive look, Yunjian hugged Ce back out of worry for Lan Su. At that moment, Ce looked like a kid who was caught stealing candy and had his candy confiscated. Chapter 1193. As Yunjian spoke, she glanced at Ce, who had a dark expression on his face. She had never seen Ce with such a dark expression before. Looking at his dark face and his uncontrollable expression, Yunjian snickered. Then, she gently pushed Ce away and quickly put on her clothes. After she was properly dressed, Yunjian paused for a moment. Then, she walked over to Ce and gently gave him a kiss. It was only then that Ce's handsome features relaxed slightly. He kissed the girl's sweet lips for a while before releasing the frown that was initially furrowed. "I'll go too." Seeing that Yunjian had quickly put on her clothes, Ce also quickly put on his clothes. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the red hickeys around Yunjian's collarbone. Those were obviously marks left by himself. Ce's face that was dark earlier was now relaxed. Suddenly, Ce felt a sense of joy. Although he hadn't completely taken over her body, he had touched her from head to toe. Not only had he touched her, he had even kissed her. Where could she escape to in this lifetime? His woman one day would completely become his. Even if he had to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire, he would accompany her. He would pamper his woman. Whoever liked to watch could go and be envious. Seeing that Yunjian didn't realize that there were red hickeys planted on her body, Ce's eyes lit up. It was bright red, especially under the light. As long as one glanced at it, it could be seen clearly. Ce's lips curved into a handsome smile. He didn't remind her, and was already dressed properly. However, Yunjian ran out and Ce followed her. After all, Lan Su had been with Yunjian for such a long time. She had developed feelings for Yunjian. Furthermore, in Yunjian's heart, she had already treated Lan Su as one of her own. If that wasn't the case, Yunjian wouldn't have been the first to rush forward when she saw the Morong family bullying the witch tribe. It was precisely because the Morong family had attacked Lan Su and Adam on Earth. Adam had been seriously injured when he was ambushed in order to protect Lan Su. It was also because of this that Yunjian had a bad premonition when she recalled the conversation between Lan Su and Wu Lan in the bamboo forest. Hence, she walked even faster. At this moment, in the witch tribe's main hall, Lan Su was standing in front of Wu Lan, and the other witch tribe elders beside her. Wu Lan's expression was terrible. As for the other elders of the sorcerer tribe, their attitudes were unyielding. In front of the witch tribe's main hall, Adam had just run over from his bedroom when he heard the commotion. However, he was stopped outside the main hall by the witch tribe. The sky was dark and silent. When Adam was stopped, Yunjian had already walked over with Ce. Seeing Yunjian, the witch tribe maid who stopped Adam immediately let them in. "Sir God and Lord Witch God, please enter." Yunjian understood. Just as she walked in with Ce, she saw Adam and Emo's son, who had rushed over, being stopped by the witch tribe maid again. "Let them in," Yunjian ordered. The witch tribe maid didn't dare to disobey, and immediately let them in. When Yunjian and the rest walked into the main hall, they saw Lan Su standing in front of a group of people. Among them An extremely ugly-looking elder was pointing at Lan Su and scolding her. Losing your chastity before marriage. To think that you are the sorcerer god's protector. Losing your chastity mark before marriage is such an insult to public morals. Who allowed you to do this? The female elder's words were very unpleasant. Just as the female elder spoke, however, Yun Jian's voice that was sharper and more forceful was heard. Chapter 1194. These elders of the sorcerer tribe were very pedantic in their thinking. To put it bluntly, they were comparable to the old antiques of country Z on earth. From some perspectives, the elders of the sorcerer tribe were even more exaggerated than the older generation of country Z. Although the sorcerer goddess was older than the tribe leader, and was the most powerful existence in the sorcerer tribe, there were always some people who felt that they could lecture her from the perspective of an elder. Even because Yun Jian looked younger, these elders of the sorcerer tribe were like Yun Jian's teachers, and wanted to lecture Yun Jian in every possible way. Some of them even thought, if I say these words now, these young people will definitely know and understand me in the future. Then, they will repay me with a grateful attitude. Just like this elder of the sorcerer tribe just now, the elder who said that Lan Su was indecent did not have a surname. The people of the sorcerer tribe all called her Elder Kong. Her name was Kong. Elder Kong felt that she was teaching Lan Su in such a tone, because she was doing it for Lan Su's good. However, Lan Su had forgotten one thing. Lan Su had treated her own beliefs as the absolute right, but she had once denied Lan Su's own beliefs. Elder Kong even thought that she did not need to use the tone of an elder to lecture Lan Su. She stood up and said that it was for Lan Su's good. Elder Kong said that so that Lan Su would understand her good in the future, when she found out that everything she said was correct. However, Elder Kong did not know that Yun Jian hated people like her the most. Elder Kong stood up and said that Lan Su was not right. In fact, her main purpose was to curry favor in front of the sorcerer goddess. However, she expressed it in a way that she thought Yun Jian would feel good about. Elder Kong did not know that Yun Jian hated her behavior very much. Hence, after hearing what Yun Jian had said, Elder Kong turned around and lectured Yun Jian. Sorcerer goddess, although you are the savior of our sorcerer tribe and the future of our sorcerer tribe, you are still a sorcerer tribe. But what I said was all for the sake of Lan Su. The women of the shaman tribe should abide by their duties. If the young women of the shaman tribe who lost their chastity before marriage were raped by the people of the Morong family, it would be irreversible. But Lan Su has broken the rules of our shaman tribe, so according to our rules she should. Shut up. Old thing, if you keep talking, I'll turn you into a dead man in the next second. Yun Jian suddenly scolded. At the same time, she took out the god-vanquishing blade butterfly knife and placed it in front of Elder Kong. Don't think that I won't kill you just because you're an elder of the shaman tribe. Don't forget, I don't even remember what the shaman tribe is. Let's not talk about you. If anyone from the shaman tribe dares to disobey me, I'll kill them all right now. Yun Jian was arrogant, extremely arrogant. Her words could not hide her arrogant tone. She held the knife and pointed it at Elder Kong. That was right. No one could disobey her. No one had the right to criticize her. No one had the right to criticize her in front of her. This was the dignity of the sorcerer goddess. Perhaps it was because he had lived a carefree life for thousands of years that Elder Kong had long forgotten the arrogance of the sorcerer goddess. It was because she was strong. That was why she was arrogant. Her words were like the sky in the entire shaman tribe, in the entire Yulong mainland. That was an imperial edict. Everyone present was suddenly shocked by Yun Jian's actions, especially Elder Kong. If the sorcerer goddess from thousands of years ago was standing in front of him, Elder Kong would not dare to lecture her. However, the current Yun Jian made Elder Kong think that she was someone he could control. However, Elder Kong was wrong. When Yun Jian pointed the god-vanquishing blade at Elder Kong was so frightened that he almost knelt down. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.